3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Palais Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of WWL in beautiful New Orleans. Welcome on in to another week and a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, SiriusXM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles, once again Super Bowl champions for the second time in their franchise history, and they got their revenge from 2 years ago after a game where in the first half I thought they were the better team, and Jalen Hurts obviously was the best player on the field that night in the desert out in Arizona. But you saw Mahomes do what Mahomes do best, and ultimately you did have the Chiefs come on back. 2 years later, a different story. The Eagles came out swinging. Their defense was unbelievable, and Philadelphia delivered some early punches that ended up being knockout blows and registered. And my, oh my, what a performance that was for the Eagles. So we will get to, obviously, all the breakdown from the Super Bowl. Let me just set the stage for you. Angelo Cataldi, the legendary Sports Radio 94 WIP host, he's going to stop by in an hour 20 from now. We'll get his reaction on the Eagles just dismantling the Kansas City Chiefs as they suffered their third loss of the season, and there is no three-peat for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But I got to start with the biggest thing in the game last night. And that's the defense. You know, all week when we were on Radio Row in New Orleans, we are talking about Andy Reid. We're talking about Nick Sirianni. We are even talking about Steve Spagnuolo. Heck, even Kellen Moore was a big topic of conversation because he is projected to be the next head football coach of the New Orleans Saints. And everyone said, oh, the Eagles have a good defense. You know, oh, yeah, Vic Fangio, well-respected defensive coordinator. We've seen him be a head coach before in this league. But when you look at all the coaches, whether it was Reid, Spagnuolo, Sirianni, Moore, Fangio, he stole the show last night. He was the best football coach on that sideline, in the box, whatever you want to say, between all the coordinators and all the head coaches in the contest last night. You know, I'm at the game, and sometimes you can't, really understand the magnitude of the moment. But with how suffocating that Eagles defense was, two things stood out to me. One, before you had the Zach Bond interception, and at that point it's 17-0. DeJean already had the pick six, and he was unbelievable in the game last night. And Cooper DeJean, Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, you go on and on and on. You name a player on the Eagles defense, they didn't play a bad game last night. But most of the people in my section were Eagles fans. Besides 4 people right behind me, they were Kansas City Chiefs fans. And one of them was actually living in New Jersey, and then he had 3 relatives that they drove on in from Kansas City. And he said to me, before the Zach Bond interception, he goes, Patrick Mahomes is looking like Sam Darnold. He goes, I love Mahomes. He goes, obviously, I'm a Chiefs fan. How can I love Mahomes? And I go, Sam Darnold? He goes, yeah. I go, what do you mean by that? He goes, this is the Mahomes seeing ghosts game. And you got to remember at that moment when he said that, it's 17-0. I understand Mahomes is getting the snot kicked out of him at that point. But with how many times we've seen the Chiefs go on runs and they go on these crazy comebacks and these resilient comebacks, at 17-0, I'm thinking to myself, go get points here if you're trying to see if this is going to be a game. You go get points, and then you get the ball coming out of half. So I thought that was a little bit of a premature comment. And then, obviously, the next play later, Mahomes, a terrible throw, clearly was rattled in the game. And Patrick Mahomes threw an interception. Zach Bond made a great diving play. And then shortly after that, the Eagles put the ball in the end zone. And when it got to 24-0, I know no game is over, but that felt like it was night-night for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that was one thing that stood out to me. And then at one point with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, I'm sitting there and I'm saying this is one of the greatest defensive performances I've ever personally witnessed. And it was a big credit to Vic Fangio. And with how much they were just causing havoc for Mahomes, and I don't know if you guys felt this way. So, Stu and Samter, if I would have told you that there was no blitzes last night for the Eagles, you would have never believed that, right, Stu?
Never. Definitely not.
So I see this stat after the game from Sean Said, who works for Sumer, and he goes, the Super Bowl was Vic Fangio's ideal way to play defense. Nickel personnel, not one single blitz, but a 38% pressure rate. Constructing zone coverage and slamming the door shut, Fangio and the Eagles held Mahomes to his lowest EPA and dropback ever. So I'm watching the game. I've watched a ton of football, and I guess this is the best compliment I could ever give Vic Fangio. I thought from afar, and I was sitting all the way up top, I thought from afar that they were blitzing all night long because of how quickly they were able to get to the quarterback. So that stat to me is just absolutely surreal. So when we talk about this performance last night, it starts with the defense, and there's no doubt about it. And I said this in my breakdown on Friday. I picked the Eagles to win the game 31-23. I said Jalen Hurts was going to be your Super Bowl MVP. But I compared the Eagles' defense similarly to what the Texans did, which was back on divisional round weekend. And I said, if they play that way in the first half, the Eagles will be able to make a big lead, and you just hope that it's going to be big enough where you could hold on to it because you know Mahomes is eventually going to get going. Or so I thought. But I said the biggest difference between the Texans and the Eagles is that the Eagles' offense would actually show up. And early on in the game, it wasn't as if the Eagles' offense was spectacular. But when you look back at this one, the reason why I went with Jalen Hurts for MVP of the Super Bowl, usually quarterbacks get it. But I thought Spags wasn't going to let Saquon Barkley go off and Saquon Barkley be the person that beat him. And early on, I'm saying at the stadium, and I took my buddy who's like a lifelong Eagles fan, one of my closest friends, to the game. Whenever the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, I make sure that he gets into the building. And I said, they got to throw the ball over the middle of the field. They got to hit Goddard. They got to hit Devontae Smith. They got to hit A.J. Brown. Because the game plan was begging for Jalen Hurts to beat you. And you know what? Folks, it's time to put some respect on Jalen Hurts' name. Because you look at what Jalen Hurts has done in a starter in this league. And his first 2 years as a starter, they went 9-8, right? They make the postseason, wild card team. Second year, they go to the Super Bowl. After that, I understand the 10-1 start, and then it was a disaster. But then they find a way to just make it quickly go away, that pain of what transpired a year ago, by finding a way to not only get to the Super Bowl, but then you win the damn thing. But think about it. Patrick Mahomes, in 2 Super Bowls now, just when going up against the Eagles, he's been outplayed by Jalen Hurts. And that throw to Devontae Smith, I know it was a great catch, but it was an unbelievable throw. A.J. Brown down the sideline, too. And then the mobility of Jalen Hurts was on full display last night, too. You know, you look back at his stat line, 11 carries for 72 yards on the ground and a touchdown, and then he was an efficient, almost perfect 17-22 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. The pick was bad. And when you're sitting up top, you could see things develop. I screamed out, oh, that's going to get picked. And I thought that could have been one of those mistakes that you end up regretting. But that was the only 2 things, if you're an Eagles fan, that you could be upset about was the early offensive pass interference, which was an absolute joke. And the officials were bad both ways, but they didn't impact the game. And then the interception. And other than that, there is not a single thing to complain about. You know, I was sitting in front of someone, lifelong Eagles fan, and the person that was sitting right there was, you know, he knew a buddy of mine from college who now works for WIP, James Seltzer. And when we were sitting there and we were talking about the game and we were discussing things, he goes, in the fourth quarter when, right, you knew the game was over. He goes, this is the best Eagles game I've ever watched because there's been no stress. And that's the crazy part to me. That if you're an Eagles fan, there was no stress in that game. Outside of the early OPI and then also that one interception by Jalen Hurts. But that was almost a perfect, and I mean perfect game plan and perfect game. And who cares about the fourth quarter? But, you know, there was one point with like 4 minutes left in the third quarter. And this is when I tweeted out, this is one of the greatest performances I've ever seen by a defense and also by a game plan of Vic Fangio. The Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, right? The unstoppable Chiefs. With Patrick Mahomes, they only had 64 yards. And they got a ton in garbage time in the fourth quarter. They got like 125. But you look at the drives, this was Kansas City in the third, through the first 3 quarters. They open up the game, 4 plays, 12 yards, punt. 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. 3 plays, 7 yards, punt. 3 plays, -6 yards, pick 6. 3 plays, -6 yards, punt. 1 play, no yards, interception. 3 plays, -1 yards, punt. 5 plays, 15 yards, punt. 5 plays, 17 yards, turnover on downs. And then in the third quarter, 5 plays, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Think about that. Against Patrick Mahomes. And there was always a moment in the game where you were waiting for Mahomes to step up and deliver. But he just wasn't able to do so. And by the time that the offense eventually got going, it was like sympathy points in garbage time. So clearly when you talk about the Eagles, you start with the defense. That's the biggest takeaway from the game last night. And you look at that defense and the way that they just rattled Mahomes, it is one of those special, legendary moments. It really is. But when you get to, and I say this all the time, right? 9.9 times out of 10 after a football Sunday, what are we talking about? We're talking about a quarterback or we're talking about a head coach. You guys got to throw some respect on Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' name. And let me raise my hand. And I admitted this a month ago, but I'll admit it again once again today because today is the proper day to do so. But a month ago, I got that sense. Or actually 2 months ago. Because I was around the Eagles, and I was listening to Nick Sirianni, and I said, the Nick Sirianni that was in the beginning of the season sounds different than the Nick Sirianni now. And whatever meeting happened during that bye week, whatever happened with Brandon Graham calling out A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, that team got on the same page. Because this Eagles team, right, last year was extremely talented. This year, they are extremely talented. You look at all the names, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, I always got to say it like that now. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean. They have so many names. But if the locker room can't get on the same page, that could derail a team. And you saw that happen last year. And I remember saying on the radio last year, go get Jim Harbaugh, go get Bill Belichick, go get Mike Vrabel, go get Pete Carroll, because I looked at Nick Sirianni as a player's coach, but I thought he was a doormat. He's not a doormat anymore. And you look what he's been able to do in the last 4 years. He's exceeded all expectations and then some. First year they make the playoffs. Survived the flower analogy, which wasn't a good one. But I really thought that was going to be an unmitigated disaster. He made the playoffs in year 1. Year 2, gets to a Super Bowl. They lose to Kansas City. Last year, disaster. When they were 10-1 and they won one lousy game down the stretch. But then you find out how great of a coach you could be when everyone's counting you out. You got bloviating jackasses like myself saying that this coach is no good. He's shot. He needs to get fired. And you respond with an all-time great season. Yeah, it really did. Now, a little frustration, a little turbulence to start the year. But in the last 2.5 months, that defense just kept on getting better and better and better. And the offense is just so diverse where even when Saquon Barkley isn't at his best, you know Jalen Hurts is going to find A.J. Brown. You know Jalen Hurts is going to find Devontae Smith. And if the passing game isn't there, Saquon's going to take over the game. The offensive line is unbelievable. And then defensively, they're going to hit you for 4 quarters, and they could rattle even the best quarterback. Because that's what they did. So give credit to Nick Sirianni, who got the right coordinators. He found a way to get this team on the same page when everyone counted them out. And all I ask for from a head coach is when you mess something up, you learn from it, and you got better. And that's what Nick Sirianni did. And on the other side for Jalen Hurts, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Now, like, you look at it, all right, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. You want to say those 4 in front of Jalen Hurts, fine. But who's going to end up being the 5th? Who is going to be the 5th guy? You know, I'm going around. You want to talk about Matthew Stafford? Okay. You know, I'm just trying to think about it. When you go through these quarterbacks right now, there's not a guy. You know, you go through each division, NFC East, Jalen Hurts is better than Dak. Whatever the Giants throw out there, you want to say Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is a fun one. But Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls and just won a Super Bowl MVP. Jaden Daniels, as great as he is, and I say going into the postseason, he feels like a top 5 quarterback. Now this move with Jalen Hurts moves him over the top. It makes him the 5th best quarterback in football. It makes him a top 5 quarterback. And Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, when they needed to, they ended up being just killers, absolute killers. And I give credit to Jalen Hurts, and his story is unbelievable. He is so easy to root for. And you look at Jalen Hurts, bench at Alabama in the national championship game. Tua comes in, gets the game-winning touchdown pass to Devontae Smith. Stays at Alabama. Not only stays at Alabama, then Tua got hurt in that SEC championship game. He comes in, he wins them that SEC championship game. Goes to Oklahoma, gets to be a Heisman Trophy finalist, makes a college football playoff, becomes a second-round pick. Right? No one's thinking that that's going to ever really amount to nothing because Carson Wentz at the time was the thing in Philadelphia. Wentz flames out, Hurts goes in there, and then look what he's done. Playoff appearance after playoff appearance, and now 2 Super Bowl appearances. It's really special. So when you look back at this Super Bowl, just from an Eagles perspective, you're going to really remember it based off 3 things. The defense, and then also Jalen Hurts, and then also Nick Sirianni really cementing himself and finding a way to avenge all the disaster and the chaos from a year ago. It's really something special. So congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles. Congratulations to Vic Fangio. Congratulations to all their great defensive players. And then the offensive side of the ball, man, Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, they get 2 thumbs up. All righty, we're live in New Orleans. And I'll tell you, I was during that show, my buddy texted me, who I took to the game. He goes, my flight just got canceled. So that's why I may sound distracted for 30 seconds. I hope my flight doesn't get canceled later. Because as much as I love New Orleans and all the beignets that I had and all the crawfish that I had and all the gumbo that I had and all the po' boys that I had and all the drinks that I've had, and trust me, folks, there's been a lot of drinks. I've been here since Sunday morning. And I know no one's going to play their small violin for me, but I got to get back to my own bed. I got to get back to my elliptical. I got to get back to eating some healthy food. And if I don't get out tonight, oh my, oh my. Oh my, oh my. That's going to be something. So we'll have to wait and see. I was at the victory parade or the victory celebration last night for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll share some stories from that coming up later. But what a week this has been, more than a week now in New Orleans. And we congratulate the Eagles taking care of business up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So they just dismantled them in a Super Bowl, 40-22. I've been to a lot of great games. I've been to a lot of great Super Bowls. I was at the one last year. I was at the one 2 years ago. I was at 28-3. I've been to some great games, and I'm fortunate to be able to do that. This one, though, last night, it did remind me of another pathetic Super Bowl I was at, and that was Broncos and Seahawks. So I've been to 2 of those, two of maybe the worst Super Bowls. Now, if you're an Eagles fan, you love it, right? If you are a Seahawks fan, you loved it. But if you don't have a dog in the fight, my oh my, that's really something. All righty, so we'll take your phone calls today if you want to chime in on the game, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. You can always find me on Twitter and Instagram, at Zach Gelb, ZachGelb. Angelo Cataldi is going to join us coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time today. We'll get his reaction to the Eagles winning it all. But when we come on back, we heard a lot of GOAT talk with Patrick Mahomes. We heard a lot of GOAT talk with Andy Reid. We could pump the brakes on that because now this has happened twice in the big game. And it doesn't take away from the greatness of Mahomes and Andy Reid, but I think with both of them, we bit off a little bit more than both of them could chew for where they're at, particularly in their careers. We'll get to what happened with the Chiefs. We start things off with the Eagles. We get to the Kansas City Chiefs next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Five, four, three, two, one. It's over. The Philadelphia Eagles have won Super Bowl 59. They have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. It's their second Super Bowl win in 7 years.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show live in New Orleans. Hopefully our final day here. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. I just want to get back home after being here since not yesterday, but, 2 Sundays ago. So what is it? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I've been here for 9 days. I'm ready to go home. It's getting late, and I just want to go home. That's the case right here. So the Eagles win the Super Bowl last night. Angelo Cataldi going to join us coming up in 55 minutes. So looking forward to that conversation. So we open up the show right out of the gate, praising the Eagles defense, and then on the offense side of the ball, Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl MVP. which is the great culmination moment of his career with just a wonderful story and journey that we could all learn from. But on the other side, going into this one, there was a lot of conversation about the officials. And there was a lot of conversation about like the weird part about the officiating here. And I don't know if you got this as well, Stu. I understand when people say, hey, we're going to say the game is rigged. But how the Chiefs really took offense to that. And I'll get to Andy Reid and Mahomes in just a second. I think it kind of impacted that team, Stu. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason why they lost the game. That's just a lame excuse. It's because the Eagles beat the snot out of them for 60 minutes and the defense was ferocious. But we even talked about this last week, Stu. I thought it was weird how Travis Kelce went out of it, really was talking about it on Monday a lot, where you just could have sidestepped it, and he wasn't even directly asked about it, too. It's one thing if I sit there and I go, hey, Travis, what do you think about the officials? He goes, what's one thing that you wish that the media would ask us about? That you could ask the media, I think the question was. And for Travis Kelce, it was, why do you guys really lay into this media narrative? And I'll get to this DeAndre Hopkins stuff last night. But in a game where you guys just got smothered and abused and it was a beatdown, for DeAndre Hopkins, who I like DeAndre Hopkins a lot. But for him to bring up the officiating last night and this rigged narrative, it just makes no sense. And it's stunning to me, Stu, how a team like Kansas City, who has won 3 Super Bowls in this era, they just won back-to-back championships. You have the leadership of Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Steve Spagnuolo, Andy Reid, how players got impacted by the officiating conversation for something that's so silly and so inane. And when you are the team, right, that is on top of the mountain up until last night, anytime there is a call that goes in your favor, people are going to say the game's rigged. People are going to say that the referees are in cahoots with the NFL, and they're just trying to give you the calls. But that was weird to me, Stu, and I'll play the D-Hop cut in just a second. How much all throughout the week it seemed as if the Chiefs were really annoyed with the officiating conversation.
Yeah, and I think you said it best, like the fact that there were times they weren't even asked about it. And that's the one thing. Like, if you're asked about it and they're talking about it, that's one thing. But to just bring it up on your own, and it's a weird one. It's one where you should just kind of just say, like, hey, it is what it is. We're here just to play the game, and you move on, Yeah,
and I think before the game, all they had to say was, hey, people are going to hate. People are always going to find to make excuses when they can't beat us. Boom, period, stop. But for the officiating to be a conversation after the game, and don't get me wrong, the officials are bad both ways, but when the game is this lopsided, and I understand everyone wants to bitch about something, there's no reason to complain about the officiating. The better team won. It wasn't even close, and you didn't even need to play the fourth quarter, because the fourth quarter was the only time that the game became respectable for Kansas City, but that's just getting points in garbage time. They lost the game 40-22. But here was DeAndre Hopkins after the game on the referee talk.
I saw a lot of things in the media about the refs, but obviously what y'all gonna say now about the refs and us when there was a lot of touchy calls? Are y'all gonna report that? Are y'all gonna talk about the refs now?
Yeah, well, I didn't like the personal foul call. I thought that was bullcrap. But early in the game, the Chiefs got gifted on an OPI. And also, there was one that I believe it was on the punt. I think so. Where Kansas City was clearly offsides, and they called it on the Eagles. So, what are we doing here? I thought that was lame. I really did. But, enough with the officials. I want to get to Patrick Mahomes, and I want to get to Andy Reid. This is now twice where Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid together as a duo on the biggest stage of them all in a Super Bowl have been blown out. And you haven't even seen the game be competitive. We saw that beatdown that Tampa Bay put on them a few years ago when that Super Bowl was in Tampa Bay, and this one was even worse. And it's amazing when you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, right? That great brain trust power. One of the all-time great quarterback head coach duos. Mahomes so talented. Reid, we've seen what he's done in Kansas City, has become one of the all-time great coaches that we've ever seen in our league. How they couldn't find a way to come up with any answer, and they couldn't find a way to stop the bleeding. It is one of the craziest, surreal things that I've ever seen in sports. And I know the Chiefs don't lose often, but when the Chiefs lose, man, they get embarrassed. Go back to that AFC Championship game up against the Bengals and look at what happened since Mahomes got stopped right before the end of the half and the rest of that game. It was alarming. Look at the way that the Buccaneers just beat the living snot out of Mahomes and that offensive line. And if you thought that was bad, it got even worse. It got even worse in this Super Bowl up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And Mahomes, he had no confidence in the game last night. He was running for his life. And sometimes we overcomplicate football, right? Sometimes people think you need a PhD in football to understand it. You don't. Folks, it doesn't matter what quarterback it is. Any quarterback, whether they're an all-time great or they're some scrub, quarterbacks don't like getting hit. And you saw a rattled Patrick Mahomes last night. But just like the Super Bowl from a few years ago, when Mahomes is a little bit rattled or Mahomes isn't on his A game, Andy Reid himself couldn't find a way to stop the bleeding either. So it's crazy to me now out in 2 Super Bowls, and we all know in the annals of NFL history, Andy Reid's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches of all time. He's already won 3 Super Bowls. And look what he did in Philadelphia. I know he didn't win there, but in 2 stops, he's been, one spot very good, in this spot, all-time great. And then you look at Patrick Mahomes, like the world is still his oyster, right? Everything's right in front of him. But in 2 Super Bowls, he's got blown out. Now, I understand that he's also won 3. And right, 3 Super Bowl MVPs and 2 league MVPs. People only would dream of that stuff just, like a tenth of what he's been able to do. And he's still got many years left. But when you get into these tiebreakers and you look at Tom Brady, and Brady's beat you in an AFC Championship game and a Super Bowl. Sure, Tom's lost 3 Super Bowls, but in all 3 of Tom's losses, he put his team in a position to win towards the end of the game. Up against the Giants when he got the snot beat out of him, he still found Randy Moss for a touchdown. You look at the Giants Super Bowl, Tom Brady was the second one. Tom Brady was the reason why they lost that game. And up against the Eagles, he threw for 505 yards, and they lost. So it is surreal to me where whenever the Patriots were in the Super Bowl, you always knew it was a close game. For the Chiefs, we've seen some really good Chiefs Super Bowls. The 2 comebacks up against the Niners, really fun. The Eagles Super Bowl a few years ago, really fun. But when the Chiefs aren't on, a team that looks so unbeatable, a team that looks as they are just so dominant with all the defensive players that they have, and then you have Mahomes, and then you got Kelsey, and then you got Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo, right? How they've got blown out in 2 Super Bowls. It's stunning. And I thought it was going to be 31-23 Eagles. And I said if one team was going to blow the other team out, it'd be the Eagles blowing out the Chiefs, but I didn't expect the blowout to happen. But man, that was a moment last night. And there will still be other moments. But sometimes we take them for granted. Right? Even Brady and Belichick went 10 years without winning a Super Bowl. But that was a moment last night to really close the gap in the GOAT debates. It really was. Because if you got 4 this early on, and I know Brady's beat you twice in the big game, you're at least in striking distance. And hey, if he gets one next year, right, those conversations will pop back up. But you started to see a shift, right? Andy Reid and Belichick was a conversation. Brady Mahomes was a conversation. And Andy Reid stunk last night, and Patrick Mahomes stunk last night. And I don't want to hear any excuses. Because when you lose a game, and you are that great as Mahomes is, and you are that great as Andy Reid is, you got to be competitive. And they weren't even close to being competitive last night. And Mahomes was terrible. The Cooper DeJean interception, the Zach Bond interception, he had no awareness. And I know you could slam the offensive line. That's why I like the Eagles going in, because I didn't love this Chiefs offensive line. But if you got problems up front, they spread wildly all throughout your team. And this game, we try to overcomplicate. It's not that crazy. Win the battle in the trenches. And if you're able to rattle a quarterback, you'll win a lot of games in this league. So Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, right? Mahomes, right now I have him as the 3rd greatest quarterback of all time. I said you got to win one more to move past Montana, and then you're still chasing Brady. And for Andy Reid, he's top 5, top 10 coach of all time. Probably top 5. But we could pump the brakes on Chiefs and Patriots for a little bit. And the Chiefs could still go get theirs, and they're still going to be in striking distance for the foreseeable future. Heck, you look back at it, they really only lost 2 games this year. They lost to Buffalo. The game at the end of the season didn't count because they were barely playing anybody. And then they got blown out in a Super Bowl. So they picked their worst time to play their worst game of the season. They got there, even in a year where you looked at Kansas City and you questioned them. They were still number one overall seed, basically lost only one game in the regular season. But then the Super Bowl, this is now 2 Super Bowls, they have just had 2 massive stinkers. And that's the crazy part. You're not going to win every time you get there probably, but to not even be competitive when you have a top 3 quarterback of all time and a top 5 head coach of all time, that's the stunning part. All righty, we'll take a timeout. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. Actually, let me take Chris in Alabama right here. Chris, go ahead.
How you doing, Zach Gelb? It's amazing. I love the being prevented from the nightmare that is the three-peat of the NFL draft, obnoxious, gloating, Taylor Swift shoving it in your face 24/7 Chiefs. Let's see, and most of all with Jalen Hurts, I'm so proud of him. He finally proved all his doubters, because there was plenty of doubters before he even got in the league. Just taking up your opinions, your so-called expert opinions, and shove them up where the sun don't shine. Because guess what? Anybody who signs up for the position at least deserves a fair shot. And that was even Eagles fans before he got drafted, all because they're too busy riding Carson Wentz's job. And look at you now. You're showing your rear, and you think you knew what you was talking about, but now. Well, let's be real, Chris. There was always a question of what, and thanks for the phone call. There was always a question of what the ceiling for Jalen Hurts would be. There was always a question, right? He was viewed as a good quarterback, right? Questions about his arm. We know how great he is running the football, but now in 2 Super Bowls, his arm has been magnificent. Magnificent. And last night, he needed to be great to win because you knew that Kansas City was going to bottle up Saquon Barkley. And I said it. Offensive line for the Chiefs is going to be a huge key, and then Jalen Hurts is going to need to be the Super Bowl MVP for the Eagles to win it. And they ended up doing that. So give credit to Jalen Hurts. And I said it. Top 5 quarterback now. When we do rankings head into next year, yeah, I'll still put Mahomes over him. I'll still put Joe Burrow over him. I'll still put Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen in front of him. But I put him as the 5th best quarterback in football right now. And what you want are planted players to make planted plays. You know, may not always be smooth. There may be some turbulence, right? This is football. No one's perfect. I know Dolphins here say, oh, no, us, the Dolphins. Yeah, okay, you're the exception. But I want to see my players, my star, my face of the franchise elevate in the biggest moments. And Jalen Hurts did that 2 years ago. And unfortunately, it wasn't good enough. And I was more on the defense. And then Jalen Hurts was the Super Bowl MVP on what we saw last night. All righty, we'll come on back. We'll do a little onside, offside on the other side. Update time first. Let's send it back to our New York City studios. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And this report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. It's a long way to next September as we now have football withdrawal. The end of the season was a shocker with the Eagles winning in a romp last night. Jalen Hurts overcame the Super Bowl loss 2 years ago. Last year's rough finish as well, and is now sitting on top of the world.
This whole entire journey of mine has been truly unprecedented. You know, just enduring some of the things and experiencing some of the bumps and joys and everything that I've endured. It's been unprecedented.
One reason for this great run this year was Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, who is expected to be named the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Auburn and Alabama will meet this week with the 2 teams holding the 2 top spots in the AP poll, respectively. Duke and Florida 3rd. Tennessee is 5th. The Tiger Woods is skipping the Genesis Invitational, still not over his mother's recent passing. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes. One minute remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back goes Mahomes. He's rushing. He's looking. It's intercepted. It's intercepted. Running with the football to the 25. Down the far side is DeJean. And DeJean is in for a touchdown.
Happy birthday, Cooper DeJean.
Cooper DeJean with a pick for a touchdown.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, that was Mara Reese and Mike Quick on the Eagles Radio Network, Sports Radio 94, WIP. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We're still in New Orleans. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227 on the table for you. We could get Eagles reaction with the greatness from Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, and obviously one of the greatest defensive game plans that I've ever seen. And also, you get the negative side of the Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes not showing up for the second time in a Super Bowl on the biggest stage, getting blown out a few years ago up against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then last night just getting stomped by the Philadelphia Eagles. Once again, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Scott in Tennessee next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Scott?
What's up?
Doing great, Scott. What do you got for me?
Hey, I had Chiefs fatigue, honestly,
okay,
as well as most people in the country. But greatness is going to be great. And
just
Patrick
wondering,
Mahomes,
what was the fatigue? Was it just because they win so much and you wanted to see somebody else win? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's just,
okay.
After you get the same person or the same team every year, it seems like, winning all the time, yes, I like to see the different one have the opportunity to win. But on that note, Philadelphia absolutely spanked the Chiefs in all facets of the game last night. But what it was more important to me that stood out was after about the second quarter, the Kansas City, the whole team lost their heart, and that's why they couldn't come back into the game. I mean, when you looked on the sidelines, they were hanging their heads and everything. And, I mean, that's one of the contributing factors mostly that happened to them in this Super Bowl is they lost their heart. And I don't know if that was the case with the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, but it sure didn't help them last night with no heart.
Yeah, well, Scott, I appreciate the phone call. Thanks so much for making it. Mentally, that team just looked cooked. And it could happen very quickly when you're in this game and everything has been made about the three-peat and you're on the verge of NFL history with just one more great performance. And if they were able to win that game last night, you go down forever in the history books as the first team in the Super Bowl era to end up winning 3 Super Bowls in a row. And when you get beat up and mauled like that in the trenches, and even Patrick Mahomes, who is someone that just looks like, he's Superman and he's invincible and everything that he's accomplished already in his all-time great young spectacular career, I really thought this. And, I have no problem with Jalen Hurts winning the Super Bowl MVP. We were talking about it last night, and I picked him to win the Super Bowl MVP. When he hit Devontae Smith for that touchdown, it wasn't the biggest play of the game, but that locked up the Super Bowl MVP for Jalen Hurts. But for most of the first half, I thought to myself that it was going to be Cooper DeJean, who I know it's Saquon Barkley's birthday. It was also Cooper DeJean's birthday because he had that pick six. And early on, the defense, and throughout the entire game, the defense was a story. And then the offense got going for Philadelphia. But when you have a quarterback, and Jalen Hurts needed to be great for them to win that game because they were going to bottle up Saquon Barkley. Saquon with only 25 carries last night for 57 yards. Now, we also did have 6 catches for 40 yards. But they were going to say, Jalen Hurts, go beat us. And Jalen Hurts did that. Now, you can't ignore the defense, but it was 11 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown, and then 17 to 22 for 221, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And outside of that pick, that was the only mistake that Jalen Hurts made in the game. He was pretty much flawless in that contest. But for early on in the game, I thought it was going to be DeJean. But even with that being said, the Zach Bond interception, I thought was the most important play in that game. Because remember, no lead is safe up against Mahomes, right? That's what we always say. And at that point, it was 17-0. They're getting the ball back. 1:49 left at their own 6. And right away, he throws an interception. And when that interception happens and you're able to turn it into 7, you get a pick six, you get a interception that then turned into 6, technically 7, and then even that fumble led to a field goal. Points off turnovers, you do that up against an Eagles offense that could fly, and that defense gives them that performance, it makes the Eagles oh so tough to beat. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Eric in Albany next up on the Infinity Sports Network. Eric, what's shaking?
Hey, Zach. I got 2 points, but before I start, I just want to tell you, love your show, man.
Thank you.
First-time caller, long-time listener.
I appreciate that. Thanks for calling.
Hey, the first point I want to make is, everyone knows the NFL is a copycat league. I'm just shocked that it took so long for a team to figure out, hey, this is how Tampa beat them. Let's do our NASCAR package the same way. I couldn't understand that. It's like half of these GMs and these coaches were too arrogant to see it right in front of their faces.
The only thing is, though, the Eagles' defense is so loaded. Like, you look at this Eagles' defense, it's easy to say go replicate it, but just like that Buccaneers defense, with Levante David and Devin White, and you had Jason Pierre-Paul, you had Shaq Barrett too, Vita Vea, right? That was teams just don't have those names. Now the Bucs and the Eagles do, but you look at the Buffalo Bills, who've been up and down on defense, they don't have the ability to do that to Patrick Mahomes.
Well, here's my second point. This summer they're going to rule the airwaves because Myles Garrett doesn't
100%.
come along every 20 years, man. This guy, if it's one of those 4 teams that were in the conference finals, I would give up 3 firsts and a second for that man.
I would, if I'm the Lions and the Bills, you almost have to go get, and thanks for the phone call, you almost have to go get Myles Garrett. Now, if the Chiefs get him or the Eagles get him, it's going to be tough for teams to win. But Myles Garrett, the Browns are going to keep on saying they won't trade him. Whoever gets him, they're going to be very happy. Because you see pass rushers like that take over games. Aaron Donald took over a Super Bowl. Von Miller took over a Super Bowl. And we saw what the Eagles were able to do last night as well. Let me quickly go to Rob in Connecticut. Rob, I got about 45 seconds here. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try to make this as quick as possible, Zach. First off, it's a pleasure always talking to you. I'm glad you enjoyed the Super Bowl last night. Saturday, I went on the air with Mark Ryan. He asked me the keys of the game. First thing I said, Eagles defense is too strong, and also they're going to create 3 turnovers, 2 to 3 turnovers, and my prediction was 35-20 Eagles. This defense reminds me of the 85 Bears, which I was able to witness. I'm sorry to bring it up. I was rooting for New England in the Super Bowl in 1986. And also, can't forget the Baltimore Ravens against the Giants. Those were
I got to let you run, Rob. Also, you could throw the Legion of Boom in there, too. But this defense, they just took over a game from Josh Sweat, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean, Jalen Carter. Defense wins championships, and that was on display last night. Coming on back with Onside Offside, Zach Gelb here with you in New Orleans.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, welcome back in from New Orleans. Appreciate our friends at WWL for hosting us today, as I believe this is our final day in New Orleans, and then we should be back at our New York City headquarters coming up on Tuesday. The big story of the day, well, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles are world champions, their second Super Bowl championship victory, as you saw them take care and just destroy the Kansas City Chiefs last night. You look at storylines from this game, Vic Fangio with one of the all-time great defensive game plans. His defense was unbelievable. They didn't even blitz once, and they were in the grill of Patrick Mahomes all night long. And then you get to it on the offensive side. Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl MVP. He was magnificent in the game last night. Nick Sirianni has shut everybody up. And on the other side, we all know Mahomes is great. We all know Andy Reid is great. But with that being said, now they've had two duds in the Super Bowl where it's okay to lose, but when you're non-competitive and you get blown out, that's stunning. The Chiefs' offensive line was not good last night, but Mahomes was clearly rattled. So that's how you kind of look back at this Super Bowl. We'll get into the halftime show, which I thought was terrible in the stadium. I will say, we didn't know that when I was going to New Orleans, and we were going to be staying in the Eagles hotel. I didn't know that. It was so cool, though, the entire week when you saw the players, and you also saw their families, too. And you sometimes forget about the family aspect of football as well. And, a few nights before the game, you see Cooper DeJean with his family, and then he goes on, on his birthday in the Super Bowl to go get a pick six. And that's pretty damn cool. It really is. And you see Saquon interacting with his kids and his fiance. Pretty damn cool. And, I got a chance to run into Brandon Graham earlier in the week. And, man, BG is one of the classiest dudes that I know. And if that was his last game, just an unbelievable career. And it was great to see him return from that injury and then come on out there and win his second championship with the Philadelphia Eagles. But last night, man, what a zoo. What a zoo that was in the hotel. And you got to see Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman come on in elated with the trophy. You see like Jordan Mailata, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Lane Johnson, all the players come through. And then Perloff and I, we were fortunate enough to be able to get into the party afterwards in the team hotel, which was really off the charts. It was awesome. They had Diplo was there, Big X the Plug, who they should have had him do the halftime show. He's in my rotation, Big X the Plug, on my playlist when I work out on the elliptical, and I do a little Bruce Springsteen, a little Billy Joel. Right? This is the most diverse playlist ever. And, you just go on and on and on with names of musicians that you like. And Big X the Plug, I listen to him about 2-3 times a week. And to be able to see him play at the victory celebration was pretty damn cool. They had Gilly there, who has really become like the mascot of the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. And yet all the players just having a good time and enjoying themselves. I'll tell you this. This was probably the coolest thing from the party. So I'm standing in line, and a college buddy of mine, he comes up to me, and he goes, Zach, good to see you, blah, blah, blah. We're talking, and one of my college buddies, he has a relative who works for the Eagles. And he goes, I saw Shane Gillis last night, and this is what he was telling me a story. So this was on Saturday, and I guess he played or he performed together with Zach Bryan, the country singer. And I go, yeah, so cool, right? I go, well, turn around. Shane Gillis was standing. He had no clue. The great comedian was standing right behind him. So we start talking about whatever show that they went to. I wasn't there. With Shane Gillis. And I got a chance earlier in the week. And, I saw a concert, and Shane Gillis was actually he was the opening act for Post Malone. That's what he was doing. He was doing the opening act for Post Malone, but it was so weird. They put Shane Gillis out there for about 5 seconds. He said two things like, I'm pretty messed up right now. He said, go Birds and enjoy the game. And it was just weird because he even said, I don't even know what he's doing up on the stage. So I said to Shane Gillis, I go, can I ask you something? I go, because he was talking about the Zach Bryan thing that he did the other night. I go, yeah, but that wasn't the best thing he did all week. I said, the best thing he did all week was Post Malone. And he was chuckling. He goes, you were there? And I go, yeah, I was there. I go, what the heck happened? And I guess whoever told him to go there for Post Malone, they said, oh, you want to just introduce him for about 10 seconds? And the right as he's going on, they said they want him to do 20 minutes on stage. He's like, I'm not prepared to do 20 minutes on stage. So I ended up getting a photo last night with Shane Gillis as he had 2 Bud Lights in one hand. And we ended up talking for 10 minutes. Really good guy. And it was a who's of celebrities last night at the victory party for the Philadelphia Eagles. So it was neat being in the hotel. It really was. I couldn't imagine being in the Chiefs hotel last night. I know that they won 3 championships in recent memory. I know they won back-to-back, but whenever you're losing a Super Bowl and you're going for history, you're just losing a Super Bowl period. It's got to be a morgue in that hotel after the game. All righty, Angelo Cataldi, he's going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes. But let's do a little onside, offside. Stu, hit it.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, Stuart, what do we got cooking?
All right, Zach. Well, Samter's Chiefs lost their bid for a 3-peat.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even Samter claims the Chiefs when they win. We haven't heard anything from that guy today.
Yeah, he's been pretty quiet around the office. They lost their bid.
Let me tell you, my heart breaks for him. My condolences, Mike, all right? I feel really miserable for you. Continue.
Now questions are popping up about Travis Kelce's future. Now, Kelce did say on opening night that he hopes to play for a few more seasons.
Where will I be in 3 years? Oh man, I don't know. Hopefully, still playing football. I love doing this. I love coming into work every day, and I feel like I still got a lot of good football left in me. But we'll see what happens. I know I've been setting myself up for other opportunities in my life, and that's always been the goal, knowing that football only lasts for so long. But for the most part, I plan on being a Kansas City Chief and playing football.
However, a new report from Ian Rappaport says that Kelce hasn't made up his mind about playing next season and is expected to take some time to consider his future. So onsides, offsides, we have seen Travis Kelce play his last NFL game.
So last year I thought that the end was near for Travis Kelce. Could have what he said earlier in the week that you played just be his way of answering it and trying to avoid the storylines by making it think that retirement's not even on his mind? My question is, what does Travis Kelce want? Travis Kelce's still a heck of a football player. He's one of the greatest tight ends that we've ever seen. But have you already won enough and you've made up more money than people could imagine? Do you want to just go be a star and not have to get hit all the time? Because Travis Kelce, we've seen what happened with Jason Kelce. And Jason Kelce's the media star now. Travis Kelce, could do whatever he wants, not only because of his own name and his brand, but because he's also dating Taylor Swift. But I don't think that's his last game. I thought that was genuine earlier in the week, and it was a little bit different, so maybe it's not, and maybe I'm taking the bait. But I think Travis Kelce will be back next year. So have we seen Travis Kelce play in his last NFL game? I'm going to say offside on that one. I think he'll be back with the Kansas City Chiefs next year.
Offside.
All right. Jalen Hurts, he won the Super Bowl MVP, but the award could have easily gone to Josh Sweat, who dominated the line of scrimmage. He had 2.5 sacks, 6 tackles, and 2 tackles for a loss. After the game, the impending free agent said, quote, "Money's important, sure, but I want to be in the right situation," end of quote. So onsides, offsides, Josh Sweat should be paid as an elite-level pass rusher.
He's a phenomenal pass rusher. He has 43 sacks, and he didn't really start to accumulate those sacks since 2020. He's been in the league since 2018. You look at it, 2020 he had 6, 2021 7.5, 2022 11, this past year 6.5, this past year 8. But in the biggest moment, he dominated. He'll get paid a pretty penny. There's no doubt about that. But elite-level pass rusher, as great as Josh Sweat is, he's not Myles Garrett. He's not T.J. Watt. He's not Max Crosby. He's not Micah Parsons. I don't even think he's Trey Hendrickson. He's really damn good. But in terms of elite-level pass rusher, no. I would not say that's the case. So, it's weird saying that on a day like this. But Sweat should be paid as an elite-level pass rusher. That's top 5 money. In my opinion, that's the way that I interpret it. I would say offside to that.
Offside.
Now, before the game, Jay Glazer dropped a bombshell reporting that Aaron Rodgers flew to Jersey last week to meet with Jets brass, only for them to tell him that they will be moving on from him next season. Now, Ian Rappaport reports that the team will likely move on from wide receiver Davante Adams as well. So onsides, offsides, you expect Rodgers and Davante to team up together next season.
Yeah, how bizarre was that, by the way? I know a lot of news comes out Super Bowl week because everyone's trying to get their names out there, and so many people are in the same area, so people are talking. I was not expecting that Rodgers news to come on out yesterday, Stu. And not only that, there were a few people that refuted it, but if it's Jay Glazer and Ian Rappaport, those are 2 of the top 5 NFL insiders that we have. So I have to expect that to be true. But remember when Aaron Glenn got the job like about 10 days ago, whatever it was? People were saying, Aaron Glenn prefers to keep Aaron Rodgers. So you expect Rodgers and Davante to team up together next season? If I'm Davante Adams, I wouldn't. I would go somewhere else. I said it before the deadline. Go to Baltimore. Go to the Commanders. Aaron Rodgers at this point, he's washed. At most he's playing one more season. So why would you want to keep on teaming up with him? I know you love him. I know he's your guy. But why keep on teaming up with him when you're looking for who that franchise guy? It's the first reason why you left him. Because you thought you were going to go be able to team up and play all those years with Derek Carr. So stop trying to hitch your wagon to Aaron Rodgers. So what, like Davante Adams or Aaron Rodgers goes to the Raiders or Tennessee or wherever, Cleveland? Davante Adams should go there? Absolutely not. So you expect Rodgers and Davante to team up together next season? I'm going to go offside on that one.
Offside.
Now, the 49ers were one of the biggest disappointments of the season and will have a lot of questions this offseason. First, the team will need to re-sign quarterback Brock Purdy, and owner Jed York told reporters, quote, "We want Brock here for a long time, a long, long time, and I believe we will make it happen, end of quote. Now, however, our best friend Deebo Samuel has publicly requested a trade, telling Adam Schefter that he told the team that he wants out during his exit meeting. So onside, offsides, the 49ers Super Bowl window is now closed.
I don't think it's closed because I expected Deebo Samuel to not be back with the 49ers after this season. I remember when the Brandon Ayuk stuff was happening, I said that the Niners would get a deal done, and then a year from now, which is now, Deebo Samuel would be out. The juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore for Deebo Samuel. I don't have a problem with that. So he wants to leave. I'm sure the 49ers are fine with it as well because it's time to move on. But this team is still very good, right? There's a question on what's the ceiling for Brock Purdy. When we talked to Joe Montana the other day, he was adamant, and he was really as animated as I've ever heard Joe Montana talk about his support and his praise of Brock Purdy. But still, you look at the NFC, the Eagles aren't going anywhere. The Lions aren't going anywhere. And outside of that, right, would it shock you if the Niners go make a run next year? No, it wouldn't. Commanders are good. Packers still got to be able to take that next step. We'll see what Minnesota does, as we don't even know what's going to happen with their quarterback situation. Can't take the Bears seriously until they start to put some tangible proof out there. And the NFC South, there's no Super Bowl team. The West, we'll see what the Rams look like with all the changes they're going through. So, yeah, I still think that this window is open for the 49ers, but it could be an all-in, last kind of run, because they're going to have to now pay Brock Purdy. And when you pay Brock Purdy, you know what happens. You got to start cutting people and getting rid of guys because of how much you're giving to the quarterback who's been on a rookie deal. So the 49ers Super Bowl window is closed. Not yet. I'm going offside.
Offside.
In what might be the least shocking development ever, Anthony Davis is already hurt with the Mavs.
I saw that during the game. When you're here in the Super Bowl and you're engulfed with all the NFL content, someone said that to me yesterday, and I go, already? It's wild. And then we'll get to the Dalton Connect stuff, too, but that was another thing that happened.
Yeah. Crazy.
What a disaster. Whole thing's a disaster.
So AD, he had a monster start in his first game with Dallas, dropping 26 points, 16 boards, and 7 assists with 3 blocks in just 31 minutes, but left the game after suffering a left abductor strain that will sideline him for multiple weeks. So onsides, offsides, the Mavs can still make a playoff run if AD is healthy.
Stu, on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked are you with this Anthony Davis
I would say it's like a 1.5.
Right? Tell me another day that ends in Y, pretty much. So that's what I never got with this whole trade. I didn't get a lot with this whole trade. But you're trading Luka because you think he's out of shape and he's lazy. And you go bring in Anthony Davis, who I don't question his work ethic. And I know we made it through a full season last year, but outside of that, the guy's usually always hurt. So the Mavs can still make a playoff run if AD is healthy? Yeah, but the question is, will he be healthy? Now, what do you mean by a playoff run? Do I think that they're going to go to the NBA Finals? No. But can they go win a round or two? Is that what you're asking me?
I would say get to the conference finals.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say no. I think they could win a round. But to win 2 rounds, I think as great as Kyrie Irving is and Anthony Davis is awesome, that to me would take away from what Luka Doncic did there. I know he made an NBA Finals there, and Anthony Davis is a really damn good player. But Anthony Davis is in the same league as Luka Doncic. And you're going to start to get that locker room, I would imagine, be frustrated would be my guess. Because Nico Harrison has a lot of questions. So the Mavs can still make a playoff run if AD is healthy. If we're defining playoff run by getting to the conference finals, I think they could win 1 round. I don't think they could win 2. So I'm going offside.
Offside. All right, and the last one, as you previously mentioned, the other team in the AD trade, the Lakers, they made a second move to fill the gap at center as they traded first-round pick from this year, Dalton Connect, and others to the Hornets for talented yet often injured big man Mark Williams. However, after Williams failed his physical, the trade was rescinded and Connect was returned to the Lakers. So onsides, offsides, the Lakers are better off with Connect than Williams.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Dalton Connect. And I thought that whoever got him was going to get a heck of a player. But, Stu, with the need for a big man, were you disappointed when you found out about this news?
Yes, because they really have no answer at big man right now, and they're going to have to rely on the buyout market.
And that's the thing. You don't know how many more years LeBron has left.
Right.
So the Lakers are better off with Connect than Williams. I think Connect's going to be a really good player, but in terms of what they need Williams more. So better off this season? Absolutely not. I would go offside.
Offside.
Huh. Did I go all offside today? We've seen Travis Kelce play his last game offside. Sweat should be paid as an elite level pass rusher offside. Rodgers and Adams team up offside. Niners Super Bowl window being closed offside. And then, the last 2 basketball
6 for
questions
6.
we ended up going offside. Look at that. How about that? I'm showing up in the big game. I'm showing up in the big moments. I'm the antithesis of the Kansas City Chiefs last night as they failed to show up. Jeez. Eagles just mauled them. All righty, we will get to Angelo Cataldi, one of the GOATs in our business when it comes to sports talk radio. The most entertaining radio host I've ever heard. Angelo Cataldi will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hurts back, looking. He is going deep, and it is caught. Touchdown!
The Slim Reaper.
Devontae Smith, 46 yards.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
That, of course, is Merrill Reese and Mike Quick on Sports Radio 94 WIP, the Eagles radio network, and a man that dominated the WIP radio airwaves for many, many, many years. A man that I interned for. One of the best morning drive talk show hosts of all time, and he's smiling today. He's positive today. That is the great Angelo Cataldi. Angelo, how are you?
I couldn't be better, Zach. It's a great day to be in Philadelphia, and I can tell you that. This is spectacular here.
So whenever I watch a game with my dad, and I notice this in his older years, if the game is close, there's stress, there's agita, and I worry about his health. That was a stress-free game for you last night, Ange.
It was wonderful. At the half, Eagles 24, Chiefs nothing, with 23 total yards. 24 points versus 23 yards. There isn't a person alive who predicted that, Zach. That was domination beyond our wildest dreams. And you know, in Philly, we kind of live in a fantasy world. But it exceeded our greatest expectations, and today is a day of jubilation in Philadelphia.
And that's where you start. It's the defensive performance. They just molded that Chiefs offensive line. They made Mahomes panic, and Andy Reid had no answer. Vic Fangio, my oh my, Angelo, what a game plan and what a performance by his defense.
Wow, and when he came to Philly a year ago, he was coming off a kind of a contentious situation in Miami. Some of his players were thrilled he left.
Yeah, some weak players now looking back at it with those Dolphins.
Yeah, and he took this team. And here's what was so amazing about yesterday. The guy who's been most responsible for the great performance for the defense has been arguably Jalen Carter in the middle. And he did not dominate because they doubled him the whole time. But he made everyone else on the defensive line better. And they just, Josh Sweat just had his way with the offensive line. And all the other guys, Milton Williams had a great game. And no one saw that coming. The Eagles' pass rush was not one of its best features this year. And Mahomes, the look on his face, play after play, the pocket collapsing on top of him. It was miraculous. It was incredible.
And I was at the game, and there was a lot of Eagles fans around me. But right behind me, there was 3 or 4 Chiefs fans. And they were just so quiet. And I get it, right? You spend all this money to go to the Super Bowl. Even when you win all these Super Bowls and your team loses, it's miserable. When you're non-competitive, it's the worst thing in the world. And he turned to me. This was before the Zach Bond interception, right? It's only 17-0 for Mahomes. He can make that up in a snap of a finger. And he goes to me, Mahomes is having his Sam Darnold seeing ghost game. And I'm like, Mahomes, Sam Darnold? And then the next play, boom, Bond interception. He goes, trust me, I know when my team is about to lose. I couldn't believe that.
Zach, I have not been a huge fan of Tom Brady in the booth, but I thought he was really good in the NFC Championship game and good again yesterday. And he was saying, he was just watching Mahomes' feet after the first couple of series. And he was saying he doesn't look comfortable back there. And there's a term, he didn't use the term, but he was saying he had happy feet. He was afraid to stay in the pocket because everything was collapsing on top of him. And suddenly Mahomes, who had been so great in all of these big moments, looked like Sam Darnold. He looked awful. And you went, is that even possible? He just couldn't do it. And you look over on the sideline, and Andy Reid, oh my God, he's the greatest coach in history, which, by the way, he is not. I watched him for 14 years in Philly. He's way overrated. But he's on the sideline. He's got no answers. Nothing. He doesn't know what to do. It was 34-0 before they got on the board. Zach, all of it was insane because that kind of domination should not be happening against the greatest coach that ever lived and the greatest quarterback that ever lived. And neither of them are actually that. And I think we learned that yesterday.
And that's the stunning part. It's because of how great Mahomes and Andy Reid are. This has now been 2 Super Bowls, right? Brady and Belichick lost 3 Super Bowls. They were never blown out. They have now got blown out of 2 Super Bowls, and it's the same formula. It is just take advantage of the offensive line. You know, it's not easy to make Mahomes nervous, but he's now been nervous in 2 Super Bowls because he gets his brains just smashed in. And if we don't need a PhD in football. You hit the quarterback, all of them. You hit the quarterback, you find a way to win the game, but how there was no adjustment and no moment where even the Eagle fan felt, okay, this game's going to slip away. That's the stunning part, that Mahomes and Reid couldn't even make that happen for a few drives. And don't tell me about the fourth quarter. At that point, right, the Eagles are already popping the champagne and getting ready to celebrate in the hotel.
Well, let me let your audience in on a little secret, all right? Because most of the country will argue this to the death. Andy Reid is way overrated as a coach, all right? Andy Reid was in Philadelphia 14 years. He won 0 championships. Doug Peterson was here 5. He won 1. Nick Sirianni's been here 4. He won 1. The only reason Andy Reid was winning big games in KC was because he had this mastermind, Mahomes, making up plays on the run and doing brilliant stuff. The only reason Mahomes didn't do that yesterday is he had no time to do it. And Andy Reid could not figure out a way to give him time to do it. And the truth is, Mahomes is a stud. Mahomes is a great player despite yesterday. Zach, no argument. Reid, the all-time fraud of American sports is Andy Reid. And one other thing, these commercials are out showing how charming and funny he is. I was there for 14 years. I talked to him a ton. He is neither. He is not that at all. It's all Madison Avenue. And I'm hoping now the world will start to see Andy Reid in a different light because he's a fraud. He's not that great.
Now, what's the truth with you and Andy Reid? Just wondering, because out of all the rants that you've ever gone on, it seems like Andy Reid's been the one that's most personal when I listen to you.
All right. I'm going to make it personal for you. All right, Zach? If you're interviewing somebody over and over and over and over and over again, and they don't actually answer your questions, they give you robotic responses. I got to do a better job. All this garbage that he slung for 14 years in Philly. At what point in those 14 years would you start to feel hostile toward the person because he has this exalted spot as the coach of the Eagles and he won't give a straight answer to a simple question? I'd say 3 or 4 years in, I started to lose my patience with him, and I never got it back. And he never won it back by winning a game like Nick Sirianni did yesterday.
Angelo Cataldi here with us. So what Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts have done last year, I didn't count the quarterback out, but I counted the coach out. I said it headed into this season. It was a mistake to bring back Sirianni. I thought he was a player's coach that was a doormat. But being around that team a little bit, that I still parachute into Philadelphia and see these games and talk to the people in the locker room, I sensed a different Nick Sirianni the last 2 months. He's not a doormat anymore because, man, 4 years on the job, 4 playoff appearances, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and now he found a way to right this ship after what was an all-time great collapse, where now, a year later, they're Super Bowl champions.
All right, full disclosure, he righted the ship because his bosses, Jeff Lurie, the owner, and Howie Rosewood, the GM, decided to strip all day-to-day coaching away from him. He no longer coaches the offense. He no longer has anything to say about the defense. He doesn't do special teams. They just had him do the one thing that he apparently is incredibly good at, creating a culture. And it's not something I've ever reacted all that well to because it's so subjective. But here's the thing. When they were dousing him in that Gatorade and he was hugging all those players at the end, even I, who have never been a huge fan of Sirianni, I had to say, well, obviously they love playing for the guy. They play their butts off for him. They really care about him. So there's something to be said for that. So I'll give him that much. And I've never really given him that much. I also got to talk to him after every game. And he's not very honest either. He was very boilerplate, typical stuff. But I got to give him credit. He created the culture of his success, of a great team. And he did it after a total collapse 1 year ago. That I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Now, you've been doing this obviously for a long time. Brandon Graham is as good of a person as they come. But you talk about a Philadelphia sport athlete, 2 championships, 2 Super Bowl championships with the Eagles, right? No offense to the Phillies, the Sixers, the Flyers. Winning in Philadelphia in football, there is no second to that. Where does Brandon Graham go down in the annals of Philadelphia sports history?
I think he needs a statue, Zach. I think we got to build him a statue outside Lincoln Financial Field. The guy, it was really fun yesterday to listen to Tom Brady mention Brandon Graham, because Brandon Graham ruined the Super Bowl 7 years ago for Brady. He stripped him of the ball. It was the biggest play in the game. And he somehow got himself back on the field and still looked like he belonged in his 16th season playing at that position. He's a god in Philadelphia. You understand? For the other reason being what you said before, he's got as good a personality as you could ever have. He loves Philadelphia. Philadelphia loves him back. And he's going to be, next time we do one of those Mount Rushmore, Zach, I think Brandon Graham might move his way into the top 4. That's how big it is when you win 2 here.
Is this the greatest Eagles team you've ever seen?
Yes. No hesitation whatsoever. It's the best Eagles team. I'd even go further and say, of the 4 sports, it's the best team. I've been in Philly 40 years, and of the 4, this is the best team any of the 4 sports has had, because it's so complete, it's deep, it's young, it's old, it's got a mixture of everything. And running the controls of offense is Jalen Hurts, who proved to everybody yesterday that he's a champion.
And also, I think now a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen, Mahomes, no order, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. You talk about another quarterback there, like Jaden Daniels has to do more. Stafford has been good, but Hurts beat him in the postseason. The story on Hurts is unbelievable. Benched at Alabama, stays there, comes on back in the SC championship game, what happened in Oklahoma. And then when he got drafted, and I was talking to your best friend McNabb the night that when he got drafted, and McNabb was actually complimentary of him, but at that time, Carson Wentz was the guy in Philadelphia. And now Hurts. The fans last night, Angelo, chanting "Putting Carson," to me was just typical awesome Philadelphia.
That was great. Let me tell you something. That would have been the ultimate if he showed up back on the field in the Super Bowl in the other team's uniform. But yeah, just so your audience knows, I have at no point endorsed your obsession with talking to Donovan McNabb. However, next time you talk to Donovan, tell him, see this guy here, Jalen Hurts? This is what a champion looks like. I wish it could have been you, but this is a winner. And the way his demeanor, that Hurts' demeanor, that he never smiles. He just focuses. I love that. That's my kind of quarterback.
All righty, before we let you run, what did you think the biggest play in the game was last night when you look back at it?
The Dijon interception return for touchdown, pick 6. It was a great play on both ends, the catch and getting up and doing all that. That's the first time I looked at it and went, oh, my God. Could this be a route? Could this be an easy win?
Should he have won the MVP? Are you good with Hurts won the MVP? Or you think it should have been Dijon?
It could have been either one. There's plenty of other great plays, but I just thought that when it went to 17, not that I said it's over. That's what I thought.
Yeah. But, wow. So that quickly, because for me it was Bond. Because when Bond makes that pick with 2 minutes left, if Mahomes goes down the field and scores, they get the ball come out of half. But when he picks off the ball where he did and they put the ball in the end zone, that was to me was the Bond was the biggest play of the game, I thought.
Yeah. All I know is it was definitely in the first half. It's unbelievable. The Eagles are champions, Zach. Wow.
And for the second time, too. Like, you've done radio where I'll never forget when I was working at 97.5 The Fanatic doing postgame, and I would have when they won the Super Bowl that year was the one year I did it, and I had people calling me from the cemetery. Hey, I'm here. I wanted to go celebrate with my dad. My great uncle Ben, right? Just hearing his voice that night was something. You never thought. A lot of people didn't think the Eagles would ever see one. Now they've seen two. How do you put that into words?
Zach, you just hit on the exact thing that makes this so special in Philly. These people that are Eagles fans are fans because it was handed down from generation to generation, and with it went a frustration. The Eagles had never won a Super Bowl until it was number 52. They hadn't won it. And when they did, people were, we were getting calls the day after that championship 7 years ago from people who had just visited their dad on his deathbed. And he was hanging on to see if they could win. And they brought their little kids in, and they were becoming Eagles fans and all. That's what it is in our city. In our city, I know it's that way in every city, but not like ours. Ours, it's in your DNA to be an Eagles fan and to be a fan for exactly what happened yesterday. We don't get it often, but when we get it, wow.
And you know what's crazy? When I did the post game, I thought there was going to be F-bombs left and right. We'd have to use the dump button. We only had to use the dump button one time, and it was because someone cursed in excitement. And we did a 6-hour post-game show. I was stunned by that, but it just shows how special it is to people, too.
Wow, it is. If there was one F-bomb in 6 hours involving Philadelphia fans, I'm going to call the Guinness Book of World Records. That's a new record for us. We usually do that in 6 seconds.
Yeah, just by saying hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Angelo, you're the best. Always appreciate you when you jump on board with us. Make sure you get Angelo's book that's out called Loud. And enjoy this, Angelo.
Zach, thank you. Thank you for having me, and continued success, my friend.
You got it. There he is, the great Angelo Cataldi, Sports Radio 94 WIP legend, joining us the day after the Philadelphia Eagles have won their second Lombardi trophy. We'll send it back to New York City headquarters, standing by with the latest update. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, the Eagles championship parade will be Friday. Today, they are basking in the glow of their second title, and Jalen Hurts grabbed the spotlight away from Patrick Mahomes. It's easy to forget how he had to transfer to finish his college career after being benched in the national championship. Now has he exceeded all possibility.
I didn't dream of playing on a big stage. I didn't dream of. I just love college football. I loved everything about college football. I love the game, NCAA, and I just gravitated towards that. But I didn't dream of these moments. It was more so the work and the determination just to be the best that I can be.
The Eagles will likely have an upcoming void to fill, with Kellen Moore all but set to be named the new head coach of the Saints. Auburn remains number one in the not on this week's top 25. Alabama is second, with Duke and Florida tied for third and Tennessee fifth. Of course, Auburn and Alabama will meet later this week. The Cavaliers and Thunder both have their sights set on dethroning the Celtics. Cleveland leads the East and will host the Cavaliers tonight, while the Celtics are in Miami after routing the Knicks in New York Saturday, and the Thunder have won 5 straight. They'll take on the Pelicans. Tiger Woods announced he won't take part in this weekend's Genesis Invitational. I'm Rich Acker.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Mahomes is back. He's hit. He's hit. He fumbles the football. A fight for the ball, and the Eagles have it.
Yes, they do.
They hit Mahomes. It was Jalen Carter who broke down on Mahomes and smashed the ball away.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb here with you, Infinity Sports Network, day after the Super Bowl. You know, nationally, Cooper DeJean, Josh Sweat, Zach Bond, Jalen Carter, those are going to be the names that are going to be talked about on the defensive side of the ball from the Super Bowl. But Milton Williams was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. He reminded me like Mike Pennell of the Chiefs last year, how we were all praising him and kind of like underrated hero of the Super Bowl. But Milton Williams was absolutely sensational in the game, and he's only 25 years old. Like, that's the thing with the Eagles, right? There are going to be some changes, always change when you win a Super Bowl. You got to pay Zach Bond. Jalen Carter's a young star. Nolan Smith is a young star. DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, young stars at the cornerback position. You got a great foundation on that defensive side of the ball, which got going to this level late in the season. So now it's like, okay, what can they do for the entirety of the season when they're already perceived now to be a great defense? Really special stuff with that defense for the Philadelphia Eagles. And on offense, all right, A.J. Brown's not going anywhere. Devontae Smith's not going anywhere. Jalen Hurts not going anywhere. And Saquon Barkley is not going anywhere as well. And Lane Johnson says he still wants to come back. And you got the, Jordan Mailata, too, who is phenomenal, and some younger players in that offensive line as well. I'm not sitting here and telling you the Eagles are going to become a dynasty. Go win 3 or go win another one. And then you can start talking about dynasty because you need 3 and 5 years or 3 and 6 years, something in that stretch. But they got a damn good foundation, and also they now have given us hope. Because that's the other thing. I said this many times going into the big game. If you end up having the Eagles lose twice to the Chiefs, we know that the Ravens can't beat the Chiefs in the postseason. The Bills can't beat the Chiefs in the postseason. The Niners already lost 2 Super Bowls to the Chiefs. If Philadelphia would have lost last night, there would have been no hope. And that's why I was calling Philadelphia really America's team heading into that Super Bowl, because the rest of the NFL needed hope, and Philadelphia provided that hope last night. All righty, let me get to the 5 things I learned from this Super Bowl. Number 5, Kendrick Lamar was horrible live. And I like Kendrick. I was just waiting and waiting and waiting for Not Like Us. And I know that the Super Bowl halftime show was not made for the people in the building, but in the building, I've been to some good Super Bowl halftime shows that I've seen in the building. Like the one out in L.A. was phenomenal, but this one stunk. So let me ask you, Stu, because I usually go back, and now it's the Apple Music halftime show, so I'll watch it on the plane ride back. And maybe it will change my opinion. I doubt it. But what did you think about it on TV, Stu?
So Kendrick Lamar is not my taste of music per se, but there have been past Super Bowl halftime shows that I think, even though they aren't my taste of music, that I think are pretty good. I just thought it was terrible. I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of it. The music, the choreography.
You're a Drake guy is what you're telling me.
Not really either. It just didn't really do it for me. I think the Serena Williams was the best part, but other than that, it was an L for me, I would say.
What did your girlfriend think of it, Stu? Just wondering.
She wasn't that big of a fan of it either.
Yeah. Samter, how about yourself? You in and out of the halftime show?
No, I thought it was terrible. And like Stu said, I might not be the biggest Kendrick Lamar fan, but I appreciate good performances. First of all, my wife and I kept saying I couldn't understand a word he said. Right? And Samuel L. Jackson, it felt weird. I wasn't sure exactly what they were trying to get at. I'm sure there was something under the surface that I just didn't understand. But the thing about Super Bowl halftime shows, whether it was, Gaga or Michael Jackson or Katy Perry, so they've always found Beyonce. They've always found a way to do something unique and different. Right? Last year with Eminem and Drake, it was awesome.
Well, this was just taking shots at Drake. That's what it was.
Yeah, but
because of their beef,
and it was also just boring. It was just him walking around, right, wearing jeans and a jacket. Right, there was no cool outfits or costumes. There was no cool pyrotechnic. There was nothing interesting about it. It was just a rap show, and it was fine if you like Kendrick Lamar. But I couldn't understand a word he said, and there was nothing special about what he did, aside from maybe bringing on Serena Williams for 8 seconds at the very end of it.
Yeah, there was nothing that I thought was all that great in person, when it came to Kendrick Lamar. But I thought I was going to get canceled at halftime, too. I didn't realize the person that was on the field. I just thought it was a fan that ran on the field. It was one of the dancers, and they had, I think it was a Free Palestine flag or something like that. And anytime someone runs on the field in the Super Bowl, I feel compelled to just tweet out to Matt Chatham, hey, you're missed, because Matt Chatham once decked a streaker in a Super Bowl right before half. And when I put that out there, I didn't know that there was a flag, and I didn't know what was going on. I just thought it was a fan that ran on the field. And I just saw the security just pounce on the guy. I did not know that he was one of the dancers for Kendrick Lamar. So I saw that tweet put out right away, and I got 5 responses right away. It was like, that this had to do with this and that. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm just I'm at the Super Bowl. All right, I'm going to delete it. So that's what ended up happening. 4, Stu, my condolences. Taylor Swift finally got booed. Man, I know it's Philadelphia, and I think she grew up as an Eagles fan. I know her dad is an Eagles fan. I don't think they showed it on TV because it was on the Jumbotron in the stadium, so you could probably check it on social media. But she got booed, and she was like, what the bleep? She couldn't believe it. I think she was surprised that she was on the big screen, and then someone said, oh, Taylor, you're on the big screen, and she was getting booed. So that's 5 and 4. 3, Vic Fangio had one of the best defensive game plans I've ever seen. This was something. You want to talk about when Belichick was the DC of the Giants. You want to talk about the 85 Bears and their great defense, right? We're talking about all-time great defenses, the Ravens, the Seahawks. But this game plan and just individual game plans was one of the best I've ever seen. And to find out that they didn't have any blitzes in the game and they were able to still hit Mahomes and frustrate Mahomes that much was just magnificent. 2, when the Chiefs lose, it's ugly. It's so tough to beat them. But when they lose, they get rattled and just fried mentally. They were never able to recover in that game up against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game when Mahomes had that blunder right before the end of the half. And now in 2 Super Bowl losses, the Buccaneers, 31-9, they crushed them. And then this go around, this game was over. Angelo thought it was over at 17-0. I thought it was over at 24-0, but you're splitting hairs. That game was over at halftime. And it's amazing how Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, even when they were trailing, were never really able to get back in the game. Just crazy how flat both of them were last night. And then number 1, Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL entering the 2025 season. Right? Mahomes is still better, even though Jalen Hurts outplayed him twice in the big game. I would still say Josh Allen has won a league MVP is better. Lamar Jackson has won 2 league MVPs is better. And Joe Burrow, right, he has trouble staying healthy, but Joe Burrow, the season that he just had was unbelievable with the amount of passing yards and the passing touchdowns. But the dual threat ability of Jalen Hurts, his arm in now 2 Super Bowls has been magnificent, and we know what he could do running the ball. And this was a great moment for Jalen Hurts because everyone's saying, oh, all the weapons around him. Nonsense. Saquon Barkley did not have a good Super Bowl. It wasn't horrible, but he didn't have a good Super Bowl. And Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl MVP, and they needed him to be great to go win that Super Bowl, and he did that. So those are the 5 things I learned from this past Super Bowl. All righty, we'll take a break. We'll come on back. Final hour from New Orleans. We'll do a little news brief next. You'll hear some audio from Super Bowl 59 as we update some of the biggest storylines in the world of sports.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here in New Orleans as we continue another day from the Big Easy. I believe this will be my final day here. I've had a great time here. The city of New Orleans is unbelievable. It is my favorite Super Bowl location. The food's great, the drinking's great, the partying's great, and you could walk everywhere. So you could be basically a fat slob like I've been for the last week, eating all this delicious food, the po' boys, the gumbo, the jambalaya, right? All that stuff. And you end up walking so much. And I took 20,000 steps the other day, which is a lot of steps. I usually get about 13 to 15,000 steps when I'm in New York. But the steps have gone up and up and up over here. So hopefully that will cancel out a lot of the beignets that I did have. But this has just been unbelievable. And remember my buddy earlier where his flight was canceled I told you about, Stu, that I went to the game with last night?
Of course.
He just texted me, dude, this is the craziest bleep. We deboarded and reboarded. They told us the flight was canceled. Then we deboarded, and now they are reboarding again to take off. So what they did was...
Oh, my God.
They deboarded, reboarded, then told them the flight's canceled. When they deboarded, they said, hold on, the flight's not canceled. We're going to reboard again.
Oh.
And now they're getting ready to take off. Oh, my God. And, Mike, didn't you sit on a runway for like 6 hours when you were trying to get here to New Orleans? I'm still here, and hopefully I get out today. I love New Orleans. I love the people here, and the people are as kind as they could be. But didn't you have a massive flight issue on the way here, Samter?
Yeah, on the way in, it was a 3-hour delay to start. They finally boarded us after 3 hours. Then we sat on the tarmac for 2.5 hours to de-ice the plane. And because they were de-icing for so long and we were waiting for so long, we ran low on fuel.
Yikes.
So we had to go back to the gate and refuel, then go back in line, get de-iced again, and then we took off. So we were on the runway for 4.5 hours. So the 3-hour delay plus a 4.5 hours on the runway, 7.5-hour delay, we took off at midnight. I watched 2 full 2-hour movies while we were sitting on the runway, Joker Part 2 and the SNL movie, and neither of which were very good.
That's crazy. And you know what, Mike? And I say this in a nice way. You were in a good mood last week. Usually something like that happens, I would expect you to be in a little bit moody. I didn't really sense that from you, which I'm shocked.
Outside of throwing 2 broken pens in the trash that weren't working on day one, I think I kept my cool pretty well.
That's right. That was the one thing that I said to Mike this week. We were talking to someone, and I'm in the middle of talking to them, right? A little question answer. I see Samter throw a pen across the convention center, and I go, when I got a guest right next to me and I'm trying to concentrate, can you do me a favor? And can you not throw the pen? And you know, who was it? Because what I asked that person, it was Thomas Dimitroff. Yeah, because I asked him, I go, was there an edict from Woody Johnson when you were interviewing for the Jets GM job? And you go, when I threw the pen, that's what I was telling you to ask. So 2 great minds, I guess, can think alike. So, man, that was something. So you had that bad of plane trouble. And I'm just hoping that everything works out okay. By the way, I'll get to news brief in just a second, but while I'm here in New Orleans, and right, the people here are awesome. We all know the terrible, terrible tragedy that happened here on New Year's. I don't know about you guys, Stu. I don't know how it looked on television. I'm just going off from inside the stadium. But Fox walking down the streets of New Orleans to the site of the attack of where it occurred, I thought was so powerful. I'm assuming you saw the same thing that I saw in the stadium on TV.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the better parts of the whole pregame, in-game coverage. It was pretty powerful for sure.
Yeah, it was really cool. When you saw Sean Payton and you saw the officers, right, and some of the people that were walking down, that was really moving. And being in the stadium, too, with many people that are from New Orleans, it just sent a chill. It sent a chill up your spine. Without further ado, though, we will update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
By the way, since we're on the topic of airplane stories, when I went to the national championship game and I flew out day of, and I got out really early, but when I flew out the day of, I had the captain, the pilot, go, folks, we have a minor problem that could actually be a big problem. There was rain overnight and on the runway that we're at, and the way that the rain shifts and flows down at this terminal, it is preventing our fuel from getting to the plane so we could refuel. And then I saw the pilot put on two big boots, walk down. I think he squeegeed away the rain because he said, we're not going to make you wait on this plane for 4 hours. We ended up waiting 2 hours, and they eventually got the water out of the way and then got the fuel to the plane so we could take off. So, that's post-COVID, I'll tell you, the airlines have been an absolute mess. But anyway, talking about an absolute mess, how about the Kansas City Chiefs last night? Hey, by the way, Samter, are you done with this Chiefs shtick? You gave up on the Jets, you said, to root for the Chiefs. They lose in the big game. Is that it? Are you now jumping off the Chiefs bandwagon?
You know it was never real. I was never a Chiefs fan. I'm always a Jets fan through and through. I've never rooted for the Chiefs. It was all nonsense. Jets, let's go Gang Green. Aaron Glenn is the man. Aaron Rodgers, get out of town. Let's go Gang Green.
You almost just said, let's go Chiefs.
Jets, Jets. I mean, I may still have the Chiefs hat sitting up here, though.
Stu, you know what happens here? When someone lies so much about the sports team that they root for, they can't even get their story straight anymore. Because I've heard Mike talk about his Jets fandom to NFL prospects, and then I go, I thought you were a Chiefs fan. And he goes, oh, I'm at Kansas City. And then right there, when he's trying to say he's a Jet fan, he almost just did the Chiefs chant instead of the Jets chant.
I will tell you this, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl next year, things might change again.
Yeah, we know that. But right now, you're in a mental blender like Patrick Mahomes was last night. Talking about Patrick Mahomes, let's hear from number 15. He takes blame for the loss up against the Eagles.
We didn't start how we wanted to. Obviously, the turnovers hurt. And, I take all the blame for that. I mean, just those early turnovers swing the momentum of the game, and then they capitalized on them, and they scored on the one, and then they got a touchdown immediately after. So that's 14 points that I kind of gave them, and it's hard to come back from that in the Super Bowl. And so just didn't play to my standard, and I have to be better next time. That's why I take ownership in this loss more than probably any loss in my entire career, is because I put us in a bad spot. And even though we put up some stats at the end of the game, those stats didn't really matter.
And he stunk. And I don't want to hear people go, oh, but the offensive line was horrible. Don't get me wrong. But still, there were moments where it wasn't the offensive line's fault, and he just stunk. And it's rare that Mahomes stinks. I think the world of him. I've already said he's a top 3 quarterback of all time. And, right, when it's all said and done, I think he'll end up going down as the second greatest quarterback to play this game. And that's not a slight, just my opinion on this. But now 2 Super Bowls where he's been blown out in. And this one was actually worse than the Tampa Bay one, because I think there was more sympathy for him in the Tampa Bay one and more excuse-making. That Bond interception was terrible. The DeJean interception was terrible. And even on the strip sack, that led to points as well. So that's 17 points right there. Pretty much off turnovers. So They did nothing. And you go back in the first 3 quarters up until that drive at the end, it was just punt, 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 negative yards, like maybe at most 17 yards. It was just surreal seeing that play out. And it's one of the great defensive performances in an individual game that I've ever seen what the Eagles were able to do. Here is Patrick Mahomes and the future of Travis Kelce.
He's done enough to be a gold jacket guy and first ballot Hall of Famer. But I know he still has love for the game, and he'll get to spend some time with his family and make that decision on his own. But, I mean, he knows he'll come back here with welcome arms. We love that guy, not only for the football player, but the person that he is every single day.
Stu, do you think that was the last time that we saw Taylor Swift's boyfriend play in an NFL game?
I think we'll see one more year. I think next year is the final year.
Yeah, I think he's going another year. And maybe earlier in the week he just wanted to squash that storyline, so he just said he'll go play 3 more years. I don't think anyone believed that. But would I be shocked if he retires? I wouldn't be shocked, but I expect that he'll be back for 1 more season. Let's hear from Travis Kelce and what went wrong in the game.
I think there was a lot of things going wrong. Can't just say that it was just the O-line or anything like that. I think it was a cumulative of everything, not really going our way today.
Yeah, not that it really changes the game, but he had a bad drop in the game as well. Him and DeAndre Hopkins. Let's go to Andy Reid on this loss to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Spent a lot of hours doing it as players, as coaches, so it's going to hurt. They all hurt when you get to this level and these things happen. 3-peat aside or any of that stuff, that you get this far and you don't play as well as you want to, it hurts.
And let's hear one more from Andy Reid. Was his team impact? I haven't heard this one yet. If he says yes, this is a horrible answer. So I don't know. I'm going into this blind. Andy Reid, was your team impacted by the 3-peat pressure?
Listen, I don't think so. I mean,
good.
It's hard playing in this. I mean, this is a tough game. It's best against the best, and so I think they're more focused on that than they are 3-peats and all that stuff. That wasn't a big issue there.
And then here is DeAndre Hopkins and all the referee chatter. Let's get all the excuses out of the way.
I saw a lot of things in the media about the refs, but obviously what y'all gonna say now about the refs and us when there was a lot of touchy calls? Are y'all gonna report that? Are y'all gonna talk about the refs now?
I just think that's lame. And that's the big takeaway for the Chiefs. The referee chatter, if anything, definitely more than a 3-peat chatter, it seemed to just personally annoy them. And there's no reason for you to personally get annoyed by it when you're the dynasty. You're the villain. Just embrace being the villain, right? Like, who cares? So people want to say it's rigged. So what? Just go win. And they weren't able to do that. They'll still be back. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. But it was weird. The build-up to the game, I mentioned the referee talk and how the Chiefs feel affected by that afterwards when you get stomped, right? This is like Tampa Bay and the Raiders. This is like the Seahawks and the Broncos, right? We talk about terrible games in the Super Bowl. The Giants and the Ravens, this is right up there. This was an absolute beatdown, and the game was over, quite frankly, at halftime and maybe even sooner before that. Here is DeAndre Hopkins, one more from him on Patrick Mahomes' poor performance.
He's human, so I think you guys see that he's human. They made, they converted off our mistakes. And so, he's a human being, man, and I guess the world got to see that.
And that's the stunning part, because now we've seen him be a human being twice in the big game. Against the Bucs and then this go around. And he's phenomenal, right? 2 MVPs, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 Super Bowl championships, all at this young age. But my, oh my, that was his worst performance ever last night. And he had happy feet. He was jittery. He quickly didn't trust his offensive line. And he just couldn't do anything. And I mean anything. He was nowhere close to just being average in that game. That was as bad as we've ever seen Patrick Mahomes look. All right, let's get to the winners from last night, the Philadelphia Eagles. Here is Nick Sirianni via Fox on the critics.
We didn't really ever care what anyone thought about how we won or their opinions. All we wanted to do was win. That's why we listened to my prerogative a little bit when we were after some wins. But thank God. Thank you, Jesus.
So how about that from Nick Sirianni, a great redemption story. Last year they were 10-1 with 1 game down the stretch. Everyone thought it was over for him, including myself. Eagles ended up keeping him, and now a year later they are Super Bowl champions. Let's go to Jalen Hurts and quieting the critics, NFL Network.
I can't control what these people think, but if it takes all the hate and all the scrutiny and
all the different opinions for me to be a world champion, and keep it coming.
I'll tell you, Stu, really with Jalen Hurts, he has an aura about him. Now, I know his personality could be bland, but this could be the best-dressed quarterback in the NFL. Jalen Hurts just looks so freaking cool, if I'm just being honest.
Yeah, nothing really impacts him either way. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And sometimes, I wanted to show a little emotion. When things aren't going well, I think it's good when a leader shows some frustration, if it's somewhat controlled. But there are times where he wins, and you would think he loses, and it's really crazy. This is one of the great competitors. It really is. And what a tremendous underdog story, getting benched at Alabama, stays at Alabama, needed in the SEC championship game when Tua got hurt. And, obviously the year before got benched in the national championship game, goes to Oklahoma, become Heisman Trophy finalist. You win, you make it to the college football playoff, and now in Philadelphia, you've been to 2 Super Bowls, outplayed Mahomes in both those Super Bowls, and ended up winning one. What a phenomenal story. Saquon Barkley on the ESPN when he knew this team was special.
I look to my left, and there's Jalen, and I see the O-line, and you see A.J. Smitty, Dallas. Right there, I knew we have a special team, and my job was just try to add anything that I can. They've been to the Super Bowl already, and I just wanted to add anything I can, whether it's in leadership, whether it's running the ball, and I'm just happy to be part of this team and be world champs.
So, Stu, when did you turn on the TV last night? Just wondering.
Eastern time, so I'm not big into the
pregame hoopla.
Yes, so it was maybe 5:20 Eastern time, so 40. Well, the game
45 minutes to an hour before the game, right?
Yeah,
a little over an hour.
Yeah, a little over an hour because it didn't kick off till I think 6:30 Eastern time. So yeah, around an hour, I'd say.
Did they show you the Strahan interview with Saquon Barkley in that time?
I did not.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I did not see it in that time. No.
So I've only seen a clip of this. I guess they're on a boat or something. You have Michael Strahan waving an Eagles flag in support of Saquon Barkley. And he said, "I only do this for you," which I never thought I would see that image. And by the way, did you see anything about Shad Khan's yacht? Just wondering.
I think I saw a post from you, if I'm not mistaken.
Crazy.
It was on Twitter or Instagram, one or the other. Yeah, that looked pretty
Right
nuts.
outside our hotel, Liam Cohen messed up. He shouldn't have demanded to get Trent Baalke fired. He should have just demanded for that yacht. That yacht was unbelievable. Anyway, more of Saquon Barkley, how he felt about the Eagles before joining them, NFL Network.
6 months ago, I couldn't stand this team. And you know how things work. I'm forever grateful for everything that went on in New York, and got nothing but love for those guys. And hopefully, they're super proud of me and seeing me in this moment. But the opportunity came where I had to make the decision for me and my family. And me and my family felt like coming into Philadelphia, I'll be able to expand my legacy. I'll be able to show the world the type of player I am, and I'll be able to compete for a championship.
I don't think people will expect this to be coming from me. Just because they hear me and they're like, oh, this is a loud talk show host. Zach always seems angry. Like, I'm a human being at the end of the day. It was pretty cool seeing the players interact with their kids and, their loved ones and their families in the hotel. We were staying in the Eagles hotel. That's where they put us up. Saquon Barkley run around with his kids, in the hotel was pretty damn cool. And this morning, you win the Super Bowl, right, Stu? And my buddy goes, I wonder where they go after the game. I go, they're coming back to the hotel. There's going to be a party in the hotel. This is what they always do. They get a big ballroom in the hotel, and they have a party. Well, this morning, the buffet that we ate at in the hotel lobby every morning pretty much when we were out there in New Orleans, the guy just won a Super Bowl. He's Saquon Barkley, and he's eating at the buffet that Zach Gelb and Andrew Perloff are eating at with his whole family.
That's great.
It was crazy. Being with the players and their families and all that through this week, it was wild. We came back from dinner, a company dinner one night, and Saquon just walks right down the escalator. Wild, the access that we got. Like, I saw Brandon Graham, and I know Brandon. Brandon's coming to the show a lot, and Brandon's just such a personal guy. He's talking to me for 10, 15 minutes. This guy's getting ready for a Super Bowl. So it was neat being at the hotel, it really was. Finally, here's Brandon Graham on the NFL Network. Is he going to retire?
Let me tell you this, I'm about to enjoy this parade. I'm about to enjoy this offseason. And if this the way we going to go, hey, I'm loving it. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just thankful to being able to suit up this last one. And, man, my family got to see it. And, boy, 2 rings. That's awesome. That's what it is. Happy on that.
Let's run the
back now.
Hey, Coach, that's why I say I'm just in the moment right now.
Right.
I ain't even thought that far.
I used to send Kelsey kegs of beer to entice him. You gotta tell me what you want, okay?
Hey, and Kels got him one too, baby. Hey.
I think that's it for him. I don't know that, but I remember when he was on this show earlier this season saying he just wants to get one more. And I even said, well, what happens if you don't win it? Would you come back? And he kind of left it open. And then you had this big injury when he was having a great season, and then he was able to return for the Super Bowl. I think that's the perfect way to ride off into the sunset. And that's what I think Brandon Graham is going to do. One of the great Philadelphia sports athletes of all time, made the biggest play in the history of Philadelphia sports, in the history of that franchise, and now is able to get a second ring as well on top of that. So that's a news brief. It's time to ask the pros. You, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag #AskThePros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question, and you can thank O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Coming on back, more from New Orleans after these short messages. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Mahomes standing at the 1. Mahomes is back. He steps up. He fires over the middle, and it's intercepted again. It's intercepted by Zach Gelb.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So a lot of celebrity sightings last night at the hotel that we've been staying at, which is the Eagles Hotel. And they had their big party after the game last night. I told you I met Shane Gillis last night, which was awesome. Gilly was at the party, too. Big X the Plug was phenomenal. Played for about 25, 30 minutes, and I'm a big fan of his. He also had Diplo perform as well. But there were two more sightings last night, Stu, that I couldn't believe. So to set the scene a little bit, you had, and one, I'm kidding in celebrity sightings, but I thought it was funny. And I'll give you the image in a second, but this was an actual celebrity and associated with the NFL. And this is someone that is in the news a lot for who he is dating to now these days. But the team buses come on back, and there's two different entrances. And you have the players and the coaches, for the most part, coming through the main entrance because, right, you have all the fans waiting there. They want to do the high fives, right, take some selfies and kind of engage with the fans. It's a pretty cool moment after you win a Super Bowl. So in the side entrance, you still have to walk through the front, but there's a way that you kind of quickly walk through and then like dip off to the right, and then they can bring you around from where all the herd of people were that were standing there. You have any idea, Stu, who walked in the side entrance and then get escorted out towards the main entrance to try to avoid all the fans that were there?
Not a clue.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. NFL is known for who he's dating right now. Not for his career, but just right now. We have a lot of fun at this guy's expense.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
This is a huge person for me. Huge person. We talk about him a lot.
Josh Allen?
Not Josh Allen. Nowhere close. But good guess, actually.
Can I
good
get
guess.
a division, maybe?
You're in the right ballpark on the division.
Okay.
Not an active, not active in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
You know who it is?
Oh, Belichick.
Yep.
Oh, of course.
Bill
Of
Belichick
course.
with his girlfriend walks right by us, 24 years old.
Oh, my God.
Now, I don't know. Maybe I don't think Belichick was staying in her hotel. It could have been. But maybe he was at the game and then just, right, because he knows people on the Eagles. I think he's very friendly with Howie Roseman. Maybe they just gave him a ride back. But my, oh my, I was not expecting that. Right? Like, you don't get shocked by anyone walking in, but you would think it'd only be people associated with the Eagles, or if it was just a megastar that's going to perform at the Super Bowl party. But then it was Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old girlfriend, who, by the way, the big boss, Ryan Hurley, and I, we went out on Bourbon Street one night, and, we went to some party that Donovan McNabb and Michael Irvin were hosting. But before that, we went to a bar, and when we walked in, someone else that works for our network said, you just missed Belichick and his girlfriend by 5 minutes. So that they were at like every party. They went to all the big events, which I don't know how Bill has the stamina for that. I guess she keeps him young, if you know what I'm saying. But she is the 24-year-old life, right? I think she's 24, operating as how a 24-year-old should, and Bill's got to hang at these events. So that was just wild. The other thing that I just thought was funny at this party, and it was really cool, right, meeting Shane Gillis, and seeing all the players there, and right, everyone celebrate, and the food and the drinks was awesome. But I didn't realize that there was going to be some media there. Like, Perloff and I were there, but like, we're radio hosts, right? It's a little bit different. Like, we're in the media, but we're not like your traditional media journalists and things like that. I saw, sitting at a table, it was Jeff McClain of the Philadelphia Inquirer, Albert Breer, and Mike Silver. They were getting content from there, and then it was so funny because you're at this loud party, right? All these stars are there. There's all this live music. People are drinking, celebrating. They're having fun. And I see Jeff McClain, Mike Silver, and Albert Breer with their headphones on, like furiously typing away, making sure that they get all their articles. It just felt so out of place, and they're just doing their jobs. But I just thought it was really funny. And I was pretty cool to be at that party last night. And man, it was just a who's of celebrities and a lot of good music. Everyone that performed last night, they should have been the halftime act instead of Kendrick Lamar, who was just absolutely terrible from everything I read. And, just observed too. Because sometimes, I say this all the time, when you're in the stadium for the game, it's not made for us in the stadium. It's made for people at home, so I'll have to go back and watch the halftime show coming up later. But the game was an absolute blowout. You had Jalen Hurts win the Super Bowl MVP. Cooper DeJean was awesome. Zach Bond was awesome. Vic Fangio with one of the all-time great game plans, and then just the horrible performances by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and also that offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. Hey, real quickly, guys, let's just do this. We'll go around the room here. In your guys' opinion, did the Super Bowl MVP go to the right person? Don't tell me who you would have voted for if it wasn't Jalen Hurts. But, Stu, yes or no, did the Super Bowl MVP go to the right person?
Yes.
Samter?
Nope.
Okay. If I was given the award out, I have no problem with Hurts winning it. Because the Chiefs, they took away Saquon Barkley, or contained, they bottled up Saquon Barkley compared to his normal standards. When Jalen Hurts threw the touchdown pass at Devontae Smith, I thought that was it for the MVP, and that's when I thought he was going to win it. And now this is 2 Super Bowls he's outplayed Patrick Mahomes. But when I think of this Super Bowl, I think of defense. And if you get a touchdown in the Super Bowl, you don't automatically win the MVP, right? Nick Bolton had a touchdown when the Chiefs beat the Eagles. Von Miller had a touchdown. Now, he did win a Super Bowl MVP. But I personally, if I was voting, I would have gone with Cooper DeJean, because that pick six, even though it only made it 17-0, Angelo Cataldi joined us earlier, that's when he thought the game was over and that this was going to be a blowout. I didn't think the game was over until Zach Bond made the interception. I thought that was the most important part of the game. But that pick six for Cooper DeJean, that's when I started to think, okay, that's your Super Bowl MVP, because the flow of the game early on, it was not very offensive, and this was a defensive battle, and I thought that was the first big-time play in the Super Bowl. So I would have given it to Cooper DeJean, but I do not have a problem with it being Jalen Hurts. So, Stu, if I took Hurts off the board and I just went with Cooper DeJean, who would you then give the MVP to if you can't go Jalen Hurts and if you can't go Cooper DeJean?
So I think Mike is going to go with the person that I would probably pick next, but assuming that guy is off the board too, how about Milton Williams? I mean,
he was phenomenal.
He was amazing in the middle, got the 2 sacks, got the fumble recovery. I just think if we're talking about big guys in the middle being impact players, I don't think he would have been the first guy that we thought of.
No, you absolutely wouldn't. And there's always someone that ends up being a Super Bowl hero that you don't anticipate it from. And he's had a good season, obviously. Like last year for the Chiefs, it was Mike Pennell. That was a very Mike Pennell type of performance by Milton Williams, and he was just a game wrecker, and he was a force to be reckoned with. And it does help when you're standing next to Jalen Carter and have about 7 people trying to stop Jalen Carter. And that forearm that he delivered on Patrick Mahomes, that was some good old school football. I did enjoy watching that. All righty, Mike, who's yours?
We kind of joked about it, how the Jalen Hurts banner right to our left in the radio row also featured Josh Sweat, who didn't seem like he belonged, but yet he probably
hold on, let's clarify something. Josh Sweat, the football player, belonged, but from a marketing standpoint, when you talk about the Eagles, right, it's Saquon Barkley, it's Jalen Hurts, it's A.J. Brown, and when you only had 2 players on a banner, and if you were going to tell me defensive player, I would have thought Jalen Carter, right? That's what I would have thought. I was just not expecting Josh Sweat to be on the banner next to Jalen Hurts as the only 2 Eagles on Radio Row on the banner.
100%. If you were to give me 6 guys on the defense, I would have not maybe put Josh Sweat in that 6 between Cooper DeJean and Darius Big Play Slay and Jalen Carter and Quinion Mitchell and Nolan Smith and Zach Ball. You could have gone on and on and on. Josh Sweat's a great player, but there's so many good players on that defense that you may have just overlooked him. He was a monster, and I feel like the MVP. Yes, Jalen Hurts had a nice game, but we talked about this earlier. The offense looked good, but they didn't look great. They took advantage of a lot of turnovers from KC and a lot of mistakes from KC, but the offense wasn't great for the Eagles. The defense was great. Somebody from that defense needed to win the MVP. Cooper DeJean made the biggest play, but outside of that one play, I don't remember hearing his name called. I didn't hear his name called the rest of the game outside of that one monstrous play. We heard Josh Sweat's name called over and over and over and over again. Someone on the defense should have won MVP, and Sweat was the best player last night, so he should have gotten it.
So let me just ask you this. If you remember this Super Bowl based off one person in this Super Bowl, different than MVP, just when you talk about this Super Bowl, whether it's on the winning side or the losing side, who's the first person that's going to come to mind, Samter? Who would be your person?
Man, probably Sirianni or Fangio? Or are we talking about players?
No, just one. One person. Could be a player, could be a coach. Just give me one.
I'm going to go Sirianni.
Really? Oh, that's the first person you think of?
Yeah. Because, like I said, on the defensive side, there was like 5 or 6 guys who were very good that not one was like so dominant that they just took over the game. They were all great. On offense, like I said, Jalen Hurts had a nice game, but not a great game. Nick Sirianni was the one who really just, him and Fangio. So I guess I'll go Sirianni because I don't know if I'll remember Fangio 10 years from now. But
yeah, so let me just say this. Number one, to me, if you're going to remember Sirianni, I think it's just the storyline. From what happened last year, 10-1 in the collapse. You know, Kellen Moore calls the plays, but just how that locker room was broken, and Sirianni found a way to get it back to be Super Bowl champion. So that's interesting you said Sirianni. Stu, who's the first name that you're going to remember on this Super Bowl? Either winner or loser, does not matter. Just the first name, period.
I would say Cooper, just because of the birthday, the big picks. Yeah, the pick 6. I think that kind of turned the game.
So if I had to give you 2, Vic Fangio would be one, because that is one of the all-time great game plans and one of the all-time great defensive performances that we've seen in the Super Bowl. And, you know, those Dolphins players that were complaining, well, we don't like Vic. Oh, come on, I don't think Vic was the problem. And then you know what? It's also Mahomes. Because Mahomes, that is as bad as I've ever seen Mahomes play. When I look back at this Super Bowl, no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, no disrespect to Zach Ball, no disrespect to Cooper DeJean, no disrespect to Nick Sirianni, right? When I look back at this Super Bowl, the first 2 people I think of are Vic Fangio, and obviously in a positive way, and then in a negative way, Patrick Mahomes. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Always on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB. We'll take a timeout. Last one of the day. Update time. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, after going to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, last season certainly ended on a sour note for the Eagles, but instead of caving to expectations, they rallied and are now champs for a second time. And for MVP Jalen Hurts, he's a champion on the NFL level for the first time.
When you play a team sport like we play, so many things are built, so many lives are changed off from the energy and efforts that are put into it. And so to be able to bring a championship back to Philadelphia means everything.
Hurts also a champion at Alabama while in college. And the Eagles celebrating their title today, but will eventually suffer one loss as offensive coordinator Kellen Moore expected to be named head coach of the Saints. And the Eagles championship parade will be Friday in the city of brotherly love. Auburn is the new number one, or I should say remains the number one team in the nation once again, followed by Alabama before their meeting later this week. Duke is now third with Florida, and Tennessee rounds out the top 5. The Thunder go for their 6th in a row tonight against the Pelicans, and Tiger Woods will not participate in this weekend's Genesis Invitational, still processing his mother's death. I'm Rich Hacker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back
All right,
again.
it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jermaine in San Francisco says, Zach, the Eagles overcame adversity from last season to win the Super Bowl. Who is a team that suffered some adversity this year that could win it all next season? So, suffering adversity. You know, the Bills had a great regular season, bad ending. To me, that's not comparable to the Eagles. The Lions, great regular season, terrible second round. That's not, to me, you know, this crazy adversity comparing it to where the Eagles were. You know, so let's go. I know that the Eagles made the playoffs last year, but I'll say teams that missed the playoffs this year, that's the way that I'll do this, who have a chance to win a Super Bowl next year. Cowboys, no. Giants, no. Cardinals, no. Seahawks, no. Niners are definitely one. Bears, no. Falcons, no. Panthers, no. Saints, no. In the AFC, Dolphins, no. Jets, no. Patriots, no. Raiders, no. Hot take right there. Bengals, I could see the Bengals. Browns, no. Colts, no. Jaguars, no. And the Titans, no. So I would say, yeah, if you had to give me two teams that didn't make the playoffs last year that could win the Super Bowl next year, I would go with the Bengals in the AFC, and then in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers. Hey, by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this before we got an out of here today, and then I want to make one comment on Jeffrey Lurie. Amy Lawrence did sign off of her national radio program today, and she has hosted at the network since the inception of our network, and I just wanted to make mention of this today. I did reach out to Amy and congratulated her on what has been a phenomenal run at this network, and those are big shoes to fill because that's not an easy shift to do. I did the weekends overnights from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern time, and to have that schedule, living in New York, even though you're broadcasted nationally, but it's a really fun community of listeners. You know, I've said this all the time. If it wasn't for the hours, I would love to do 2 to 6 a.m., especially on a national network, because you're on all the major cities. You get people up late at night calling you. You never know if they're coming back from a late night or they're just getting up to start their day. And that was some of the most fun I've ever had doing radio, whether it was filling in for Amy when I first got to the network or doing the weekend overnights. But, man, what a career for Amy Lawrence. She's not retiring. We'll see what else she does, but I think it's just time for her to try something new in her career. And, right, the hours could get to people, and Amy is now married, too. So she probably just wanted something else that was probably a little bit easier on her schedule. But Amy has been a mainstay at this network. After Hours with Amy Lawrence. You know, we go around the country. People know the show. Leroy Horde, I remember I met him at a Super Bowl. He goes, oh, how's Amy doing? Because he would listen to Amy as he was getting ready to go into work and things like that. So as someone that has done this job for a while, and Amy's done it for a lot longer, there's just a lot of respect when you're able to do that job for that long. And it's very tough to keep a job in this business. And for her to leave on her own, not us getting rid of her, right? That's not always easy to do because it's tough to walk away from jobs like this. But, man, hats off to Amy. And I was exchanging a few messages with her, and she's going to be missed here at the Infinity Sports Network. And we'll see where she does land and where she goes next. But nothing but the best to Amy Lawrence. And if you are a listener of hers that also listens to us, we obviously thank you. And we continue to hope that you listen to the Infinity Sports Network across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, SiriusXM, Channel 375, and the free Odyssey app. And as for what's next for that show and that slot, I don't have a damn clue. Right? When news like that comes out, since I do afternoons at the national level, I get a bevy of messages from fans. And people say, hey, who's going to take over? Who's going to replace Amy? I don't have a damn clue. Right? You could speculate who you want. It's not my place to do so. And also, I don't make the decision at the end of the day. You know, there's a lot of quality candidates in the building, and there's a lot of quality candidates outside the building. Because our network, people want to be a part of it. You know, being here in New Orleans, man, how many people come up and they talk about the network? You know, it was pretty surreal when I was sitting there, you know, walking around Bourbon Street. I shouldn't say sitting. When I was walking around Bourbon Street, and people are coming up to me, you know, hey, listen to the show. Oh, I heard the Warren Sapp interview. Oh, I heard other things that you've done as well. So it's pretty neat when you get to go on the road and you get to meet people, whether they're in the industry or if they're just fans, and you get to interact with them. So pretty neat. And that's the community here. I would say this about our network on a national network. And DA, who's no longer, I was going to say he's no longer with us. Makes it sound like he's dead. He just works at Sirius. But DA, who is no longer on this network, he did a really good job in building a community with our network where it's tough when you do a national show because you have to hit so many different topics, so many different markets. You try to make it a family atmosphere here. And I think that's what separates us from other networks is we do national sports radio, but we kind of give you a local feel and a local spin to it as well, and that creates a very fun community. Because right, I've done radio locally, nationally. When you do local radio, it's almost like you become like the cult leader sometimes. And, you know, being to many events with our network, it's pretty neat when you get to meet the listeners, because without the listeners, we would be nobodies. You know, that's just the truth. None of us would have jobs if it wasn't for the listeners. So just wanted to make a note on that and give a little salute. And, you know, I will raise my empty Starbucks glass to Amy and say cheers on a wonderful run here at what was CBS Sports Radio and what is now the Infinity Sports Network. Anyway, before we run, here's the part that we didn't talk about today. Jeffrey Lurie, one of the best owners in sports right now. The Eagles are a family. The Eagles are a community. Eagles have some of the most passionate fans. And Jeffrey Lurie delivered that franchise their first ever Super Bowl championship, and now he's got 2 rings. Right? You look at that Eagles team, and you look at that culture, and you look at the way that Jeffrey Lurie is able to run a franchise. Man, that's as good of an owner as there is in sports. I'm not saying he's the best, but if you want to make the case for it, I have to go through that and think about that more. But if you want to say Jeffrey Lurie is one of the best owners in sports, I think that's very tough to debate. I do. And now you have 2 championships, and I think the brand of the Eagles, right, money-wise, always goes up and up and up with these NFL teams. But you win 1 championship, it was, oh, man, they had all that heartbreak for all those years. People never thought that was going to happen, and they win it. You win a 2nd championship, I think it raises the way that people view you as an organization, especially when it's not like, oh, you win one in Super Bowl like 4, I'm just throwing out random numbers, and then you go win one at 50. Like when you win one this quickly, right, in NFL terms, Super Bowl 52 and Super Bowl 59, and even when the Eagles weren't winning Super Bowls, there was a sustained level of success for my lifetime where they would always be in the mix. And that's all you could ask for is just be in the mix. And that's a big credit to Jeffrey Lurie. And great organizations starts at the top, then you empower people to make the right decisions, and it trickles on down. And a great owner gives his opinion when needed to, but doesn't meddle. Right? That's Jeffrey Lurie. Jeffrey Lurie is a phenomenal owner. So when we go through all this today, Sirianni praise, Jalen Hurts praise, A.J. Brown praise, Devontae Smith praise, Eagles offensive line praise, Vic Fangio praise. You go through it over and over and over, right? Jalen Carter, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean. You give me all the names that you want. And Josh Sweat, Saquon Barkley, like whoever it is. It all starts with Jeffrey Lurie. And he is the straw that stirs the drink. And now the Eagles are on a different level of a franchise as now they have won 2 Super Bowl championships. All righty, big thanks to everyone, whether it is our great listeners on the Infinity Sports Network, SiriusXM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and our YouTube chatters. Fun shows in New Orleans. I will talk to you tomorrow from New York City. Congratulations to the Eagles. All righty, we out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining.